Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic part 4. Which is what if Naruto became the Raikage third son part 4. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. After Team Darui-N left the Raikage they got their checks from Kurai for their A-rank mission. Ko bid Darui and Yugito farewell before heading toward his clan compound. While the Ibuyoki clan was not the largest clan nor did it have a bloodline, it was still considered one of the most powerful clan in Kumo. The Ibuyoki were famous for their high Suiden manipulation and genjutsu along with having a summoning contract, which was rare in Kumo. Their summoning animal was the bear, a feared summoning. While they were not on par with the second Hokage, they still were a feared clan by many countries. As for genjutsu, most of the village's best genjutsu users, besides Sihu, was the best, which was good since Kumo shinobi seemed to lean to more of the taijutsu or ninjutsu part of shinobi life in every ko. The clan compound itself was located in a part of the village that didn't have as much mountains, meaning that there were actual buildings. The houses were made of wood and were traditional Japanese-themed houses. Many small streams stretched throughout the compound and there were suanas in the compound as well. As Ko entered the compound, his cousin Sunabu, greeted him. "Ah, Ko-sama, I see you've returned from your mission with the demons," Sunabu said snobbishly. Sunobu was a fairly lanky teen around 18 who wore a fancy red haori and had long brown hair put in a ponytail, was rather plump, a small thin mouth, and arched eyebrows that made him look like a snob, which he was. Sunobu wasn't a ninja as he didn't think it was worth risking his life for Kumo. Ko never did like him. "Don't call them that. They have names," Ko said angrily. Sunabu was surprised by Ko's comments so much he tripped over his robes. "I beg your pardon, but you sound like you were actually defending them," Sunabu said, scandalized. Ko glared at him angrily. "Their names are En and Yugito. They are my teammates and my friends. I will not let you insult them." Ko growled out, angry that Sunabu was insulting his teammates. Ko then turned around and headed toward his house, leaving a sputtering Sunabu alone outside. With a scowl in place, Sunabu straightened his robes before marching importantly towards the clan head's house with his head high in the air. Ko's father needed to know of this. Back in the Raikage's tower, complete silence reigned through the Raikage's office as B and the Raikage stared at En, who stared back at them in shock. En was completely confused. He had just found out that he was the biological son of the fourth Hokage Minato Namikaze, best known as the Yellow Flash of Konoha, and was even faster than the only man in history to achieve SS rank in a flea on sight on contact. Had told En of how he had found En when he was a baby. When his biological father and mother dying by sealing the Kyuubi inside him, also told En what his mother, who they still didn't know who she was, and how she told to protect him. And the Raikage stared at En with slightly fearful eyes. They were fearful that En would feel betrayed by them and wouldn't want to see them again, something they never wanted to happen. "So my biological father is the fourth Hokage," En said hoarsely. Just nodded his head. "I see." En's head lowered, shadowing his eyes. "Well, that's okay," he said cheerfully, looking back up with cheerful eyes. "What? En, what do you mean that's okay? Are you not going to see us as brothers anymore?" I asked him, fearful of his answer. En turned his attention to him and smiled brightly. "Is that why you and Pops are looking so worried?" he asked him. Ryzen brightened when he called him Pops. "But En, you just found out about your real parents, are ye mad?" "Why would I be mad? Just cause I'm related to him doesn't make me any less in Yatsuki. He may be my biological dad, but you're my real dad," En said before looking at B and you're still my brothers. "I could never stop thinking of you guys as my family." En's smile brightened. "Plus the Yatsuki clan just wouldn't be as awesome without me, and since I'm the son of the most powerful Kages ever, just think how strong I'll become," he said excitedly. A sighed in relief before he hugged his brother tightly, which B and their father joined in. "I told you ya fools, Lil 9 is one of our bros. Together we can defeat the most dangerous of foes." B rapped while they hugged before A punched him. "You idiot, you're ruining the moment. Aw, come on big bro, don't be such a hater on the first go." En rapped back. "That didn't even make sense. It doesn't have to. As long as you accept what is due, and that's rap, ya fool." En rapped back. A groaned. "Why couldn't I have gotten normal brothers?" He complained, making everyone laugh. Ah, come on, without us the Yatsuki are down too, and without our rap to lighten the mood, your life would just be cruel, be rapped. A rolled his eyes. Yes, that's exactly what people should see the Yatsuki clan as, a bunch of idiot rappers, he grumbled. N and B pouted while Ryzen chuckled deeply. So you're not mad at us for not telling you? He asked his son. No way. You're my family no matter what. You're the one who raised me, you're the ones who taught me everything I know. Because of you I am the person I am now. N's expression turned thoughtful. Does anyone in the leaf know I'm alive or that I even exist? N asked his father. Ryzen shook his head. No, not that we know of, since Minato had lots of enemies, and I would bet my hat that if I found out he has a son they would no doubt want to kill you as an act of revenge for what he did to them during the war. There are only two people that I know who probably knew of your birth, and that is the third Hokage and Jiraiya of the Sannin. Ryzen looked at N with a serious expression. N, whatever you do, don't seek out Jiraiya. From what my spies have found, that he hasn't been in the leaf for 12 years after Minato's death, but we found out what he has been doing for the past 12 years, that he is searching for something, or to be more specific, someone. N nodded in understanding. He's looking for me, he whispered. That is what I believe also. If Jiraiya ever discovered you, he would without a doubt try and capture you and take you back to Konoha. While you are strong for your age and you aren't at his level, though if Leaf even tries to get you they'll have hell to pay, Ryzen said gruffly, as he would never let them take his youngest son away. If they ever do try to get you they'll have to go through us, said, to which B nodded his head in agreement. N smiled at his family. Okay, stay away from the Sannin, how hard can that be? It's a big world, the odds of me ever running into him are a 1 in a million, N said. Seriously, what were the chances of that ever happening? Okay, so can I go? I want to ask Zabuza if he can teach me that cool jutsu. N said with a smile. Alright N, you can go, Ryzen said, to which N nodded before leaving to look for Zabuza. That went well, A commented. B snorted. Of course it did, it's Lil 9, I don't get why you thought things wouldn't be fine. Aside at his younger brother's rap, why can't you and N talk normally? He complained. Be cool, not a fool, was B's reply. Alright, you two knock it off. I still have to send 2 supply ships to Wave, Ryzen said, to which his 2 oldest sons nodded their heads before leaving, with B trying to convince A that rap was so much cooler while A would yell at him for being an idiot. Ryzen shook his head in amusement, as this would always happen with his family, and he would never trade that in for anything. Back with N. N was currently walking through the streets of Kumo with his normal smile in place while he was trying to locate Zabuza so he could ask him to teach him the hidden mist jutsu, since he thought it would be a pretty bad jutsu to learn, and if Zabuza refused he would do what he always do to get the person to finally agree, annoy them by rapping until they caved just for him to shut up. Hey, what works works. N was still thinking about the truth about his heritage, and he was being honest with his family when he said that they were still his family no matter what. Even if they weren't related by blood, they still were a family. They raised him and supported him through every moment of his life. He thought of what life would have been if A hadn't rescued him. He didn't want to think about what life could have been as a Jinchuriki in Konoha when the same Bu sealed inside him attacked it and without a family to help him. It scared him to think of a life without A, B, Dad, Yugito-chan, and everybody else that had been there for them. He was happy to be in Kumo, with his family and precious people. And then suddenly stopped, smile gone, as he heard the faint whistling of metal cutting through air. N grabbed a kunai out of his pouch and quickly stopped the shuriken that were head towards him. All of a sudden N's vision darkened as though he were blind. Genjutsu, he thought. He felt Kyuubi mix his chakra with his barely, though so no one would sense his chakra of course, and N's sight returned, just in time to see a sword swinging for his head. N quickly blocked the sword with his kunai and tried to punch the mysterious alien, but the man caught his fist in his hand, much to N's surprise. The mysterious attacker then roundhouse kicked N hard as N went sailing and crashed into a tree. As N started to come out of the tree he stopped when he felt the cold feel of metal against his neck. You've gotten quicker with your genjutsu dispensing, N-kun, but you need to be faster. An emotionless voice came from behind him as N felt the blade remove itself from his neck. Rubbing his neck and looking behind him with a grin, he saw Weasel behind him in his normal storm gear. Hey Itachi-sensei. N said with a small wave. A sigh could be heard from inside the now known Itachi Uchiha as he took off his weasel mask. En-sama, you do know there is a reason we wear masks, right? He asked with a deadpan. Well, lots of people know who you are even with the mask, En reasoned. Yes, but it's part of protocol, Itachi reasoned back. En smirked. Hey, since when have I ever followed the rules? Never, Itachi said, as the answer was obvious. En nodded happily. Exactly. Itachi smirked inwardly as he would never let someone such as him give away such an obvious emotion. Itachi thought En as a little brother. Like Sasuke, Itachi thought, wondering if he was getting strong to avenge his clan. Itachi had been in Kumo for at least a year and a half, and while he had heard that there were Jinchuriki in Kumo, he didn't know which ones, as he was still considered unfit to know such knowledge, which was understandable. But Itachi wasn't considered a prodigy of prodigies in the Uchiha clan for nothing. He easily managed to put together the pieces of the puzzle that was En. He noticed the glares and mutterings of the civilians and ninja whenever he or the other two passed by. He found out from an unaware civilian who was talking a little too loudly that B and Yugito were the containers of the Hachibi and Nibi respectively. But it was En that didn't make sense, as he knew already that Kumo had the Nibi and Hachibi, so why was En treated badly when he didn't even contain either Bu? It soon started to fall in place. Itachi noticed how En was born the same year of the Kyuubi attack on his old home Konoha. What was even more, his birthday was October 10th, the same day the Kyuubi attacked Konoha. He also noticed that En looked a lot like a certain blonde-haired, blue-eyed man who became the fastest man in the world. It was obvious when Itachi put it all together. En was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi and maybe the son of the fourth Hokage. He then went to the Raikage to confirm his suspicions, where from the man's guarded expression he knew he was right. Of course, the Raikage threatened to kill him very painfully if he told En about his parentage, as he wanted to tell him he was ready. After promising that he wouldn't tell En since he knew that the Raikage loved En like his own flesh and blood, he didn't want to destroy that. Itachi had first met En when he had been heading to one of his favorite training grounds, and he had seen En also training. Since he had found out who En was and what he contained within him, Itachi was curious to see how strong En was. Needless to say, Itachi was impressed within 5 minutes. The things En had been doing were easily high Chunin and low Junin training exercises, and the kid never stopped. Even when Itachi could see that he was deadbeat tired, he kept going on and on. The boy just didn't know when to give up, if he even knew what giving up means. That was when Itachi had made his presence known. En had been surprised to find out that he had been watching him, but was happy that Itachi was impressed. While En wasn't considered a prodigy like Itachi, he had something that made him even better than a prodigy. He had the guts, drive, and determination to get strong. The boy never stopped training, and it showed how strong he was because of it. That day a friendship was born by an Uchiha and Yatsuki. Itachi knew how much En wanted to gain the approval of the village, and he wanted to help him. Itachi never believed that a Jinchuriki was the Bu inside them. It wasn't logical, was what he believed. They were just the container, nothing more, nothing less. Itachi became a sort of a sensei to En. He would help him with his genjutsu by using his Sharingan to cast genjutsu on En whenever he wasn't expecting it and would attack him. This was to help En react quickly if he ever found himself in this sort of predicament but with an enemy. En would also learn some of Itachi's jutsu he had learned or copied by using his Sharingan. Even though Itachi wasn't a lightning nature, he had still shown him the seals and instructions to use the jutsu that he had copied, though sometimes Itachi would give Yugito some fire jutsu if she were ever with En whenever Itachi taught him. I'm curious about something, En-kun. From what I've heard from my fellow Storm, that Zabuza Momochi and an apprentice of his have joined Kumo. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? He questioned the blonde Jinchuriki. En smiled. What do you think? En then started to tell Itachi everything that happened during the mission. I'm not surprised, Itachi said, making En look at the older man in confusion, that you brought back hope to the people of Wave. You seem to have a gift to bring the best out of everyone and befriend anyone you meet, whether it's a friend or enemy. En looked surprised. You think so? Itachi merely nodded. A small smirk graced Itachi's face. Though it was slight, and if you weren't observant you wouldn't have been able to see it. So the part where you were watching the sunset with Yugito-chan and were telling her that she was one of your most precious people and that you would give your life for her, did you kiss her? En nani. En sputtered out. I'm not surprised with that either. It's rather obvious you both like each other. It was only a matter of time, really. Itachi commented, rather enjoying, though he never showed it, the spluttering mess that was N at the moment, who was turning a rather bright red that would make a certain Hyuga heiress jealous. I don't have a crush on Yugito-chan. N tried to deny, though the blush wasn't helping him look convincing. Sure you don't, Itachi commented dryly. Can we please talk about something else? N complained. Very well. While you did successfully break out of my genjutsu, it was only around a low B rank genjutsu. If I had wanted to kill you, I could have done it with ease. N rolled his eyes. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not good with genjutsu, Jinchuriki, remember? We can't really do that, mister. I have a dojutsu that allows me to use genjutsu with ease, he said sarcastically. Jinchuriki or not, you must be prepared to fight against a skilled genjutsu user. If you were an enemy of mine and we fought, I could easily place one of my best genjutsu on you, and by the time you even realized you were in a genjutsu, you'd be dead, Itachi reminded him. N nodded his head. I know, I gotta keep training until I can beat your best genjutsu. You'll have to train for a long time then. I wasn't considered a prodigy of the Uchiha clan for nothing, Itachi said a little sourly, since he still hated his clan for what they had tried to do. N noticed they were getting on the topic of Itachi's family and changed the subject. So how'd the mission go with my bros? Did you kick that snakes by showing what Kumo has to show? He asked in rap. Itachi, being used to N and B's rap, didn't comment on his particular speech style. No, it seemed that Orochimaru was not in the base at the time of the alt. Damn, that snake is a coward. If he had been there, we could have gotten rid of that hole. N swore. Don't worry, N-kun, if we ever find out Orochimaru is in Kumo again, we'll get him. He may be one of the Sannin, but not even he can defeat your brothers and the entire Kumo military, Itachi urged the angry Jinchuriki. N nodded his head before looking at Itachi excitedly. So are you gonna show me an awesome jutsu? Haha, N said, jumping up and down like an excited 3-year-old who had just been told he could buy anything he wanted in a candy shop. Itachi, amused by N's childish nature, decided to tease him, if only for a little while. While I could do that, I have to train myself too. You're not the only one trying to get stronger. But you're an S-rank ninja. You know you're stronger than me, and thus you must help me get stronger first. N reasoned. Itachi chuckled. Okay, I'll teach you this jutsu I've been wanting to teach you for a while. Itachi then made a hand seal and a clone appeared by Itachi. I know that you can use shadow clones. This is a special type of clone that I created myself, Itachi said, which made N's eyes widen, since Itachi had never taught him any of the jutsu he has created, since most need the Sharingan to be able to use. Attack the clone, Itachi instructed, to which N nodded and shot forward with his arm covered in crimson lightning, where he quickly punched the clone, which to N's surprise, turned into dozens of crows that quickly flew around the air, while some flapped around him, with him waving his arms to try and make them leave him alone, since they were everywhere and he could barely see. This is my crow clone. As you can see, the user creates a clone while visualizing the chakra stored inside the clone to mimic crows, while I use real crows due to them being my summoning animal. Since you have cage level chakra due to you being the QB Jinchuriki and have good chakra control for someone your age, you can easily spare the chakra to create these clones. The crows can be used to distract an enemy like it did with you by surrounding them and crowing loudly, which you can use your enemy's distraction to take them out, Itachi explained. Sugoi, you're so awesome, Itachi-sensei. N yelled out, excited to learn one of his first sensei's own original jutsu. Thank you, N-kun. Now before you try and star, Itachi began before he saw N make a seal and shouted, Crow Clone Jutsu. And imagined his chakra to shape into birds while still attaining a human form. A poof of smoke appeared by N, and when the smoke cleared, it revealed a human body that sort of resembled N, but instead of it having a nose, it had a large beak, and where its arms should have been were wings, while half of its body had feathers. N watched with a sweat drop as his clone started to flap his wings, trying to fly while cawing rather loudly. Itachi threw a kunai at the failed clone before turning to N. Maybe next time you should wait until I give you more instructions and more details, he said to the sheepish N. Itachi and N spent the rest of the day learning the jutsu. While it did take a while, N never stopped trying. Even when he started to get the symptoms of chakra exhaustion and was lying on the ground, he didn't stop until Itachi told him that was enough for the day, and even then N was complaining that he could still go on. Their work wasn't for nothing as N managed to make a clone that looked exactly like him, but when it got hit only one transparent crow came out, but Itachi had said that was good for his first day trying to make it. Even though N wasn't a prodigy, you had to give the boy credit for his determination. N didn't need to be a prodigy to be one of the strongest ninja to walk this world, all he needed was his guts and determination. 8 figures were stationed in their positions watching their target from afar. They were in the shadows and their features were in the dark. Sucker, this is Fiery Red Head, do you see the target? A girl's voice crackled in everyone's radio. Sucker to Fiery Red Head, I see the target, but what if the target has allies and they are surrounding us and we didn't notice it and everyone dies but me and I have to inform Raikage-sama, and a male's voice spoke. Shut up. Fiery Red Head whispered harshly, so not to make the target aware of them. Cool, are you in position? I'm in position, another girl spoke coolly. Cool then spoke, Fox and Strategist, are you two in position? We're in position. I wanted to be awesome rapper. An older male's voice broke in, too bad you fool and tool, I get to be called awesome rapper cause that's the rule. Oh yeah, another man's voice cut in, awesome rapper, remember that only those 6 are doing this ambush while we watch, no matter how dull it is. Cool spoke, Cat, are you in position? I'm in position, another girl's voice spoke. Alright, get ready to move to your positions. Fox will move in to grab the target while Cool, Strategist, Fiery Red Head, and Sucker surround the area to make sure it doesn't escape. Cat will be behind them to grab the target if it gets past any of you. Roger, came 6 replies. 5 blurs raced towards the target that let out a startled hiss and tried to run away but was caught by a pair of hands. It was then revealed that the 5 figures were Omoi, Karui, Samui, and Ko, while N was on the ground holding a struggling cat that was currently clawing his face. The cat in question was a golden color with a blue bow on its head. 3 other people appeared showing Darui, B, and Yugito. Alright yo, ya got the cat, now just make sure we got the right one before we finish this mission with a splat. B said in rap, making everyone but N sweat drop at his bad rhymes. It has a blue bow on its head, this is the target, Shishi, Ko said while the now known Shishi was still clawing N's face and him yelling at them to get it off of him. Shishi then slipped out of N's arms and calmly walked over to Yugito, who picked her up and held her in her arms and started petting her while Shishi purred in approval. N picked himself off the ground and looked over to the purring Shishi in Yugito's arms with a twitching eyebrow with his face covered in scratches. As the Raikage had promised them, Team 9 had been given a week off for training or just to relax. N had spent his time learning the jutsu Itachi had given him and had started to pester Zabuza to teach him the hidden mist jutsu, though he had yet to learn it, but judging by the twitching eyes and Zabuza trying to kill N with his sword, he was close to cracking. But after the week was over, the Raikage kept his promise that they would go back to D-rank missions. Much to their horror, they had been given the worst mission ever. To capture Shishi, the lightning daimyo's wife's cat. Them and Team 8 had been told to capture what many considered the 10th Buu in disguise, or one of Nibi's children. It was a good thing that Yugito was on the team, since cats always seemed to like her, as this was shown with what many considered a demon cat was being cuddled by Yugito and purring like mad. Huh, seems like you were right, N. Cats do love Yugito, Ko commented, where Yugito blushed embered. After Ko had apologized for thinking them as demons, N and Yugito had introduced them to Team B, where the genin had been a little suspicious, but when they saw that Ko didn't want to harm either their friends or sensei, they welcomed him with open arms. N merely scowled looking at the purring cat while his scratch wounds started to slowly heal thanks to Kyubi, who was roaring with laughter at how badly N had gotten hurt from a small cat. Alright, Team 9 and 8, our objective is complete, time to bring her back to her owner, Darui said, where the team started to head back towards Kumo. In the Raikage's tower. Oh my poor Shishi-chan. Mama thought she was never going to see you again. Royokami, 1, the lightning daimyo's wife, cried out in happiness. Royokami was a rather plump elderly woman with dark skin and black hair done in an elegant bun. She was currently hugging Shishi in a bone-crushing hug that made the cat's eyes bug out, with half its head in the woman's bosom and its arms flailed trying to escape the hug and return to Yugito. Team 9 and 8 watched from the sidelines along with Ryzen. They all felt bad for Shishi, as it was now obvious on why Shishi always ran away. Even N, his cuts healed, couldn't help but feel bad for the cat. After a heartwarming, for Royokami at least, reunion between pet and owner, The woman left with Shishi, who was still trying to get away from the woman more so when she exclaimed Shishi would be getting a bath since she was so dirty. Ryzen looked at his two youngest sons' teams. Well, now that mission is out of the way, you can choose between washing a dog, tending a garden, painting a fence, or, he started to say when they all heard Royokami yell out, "No, Shishi-chan, come back," and saw Shishi run out of the building back towards the woods, or you can catch Shishi again. No. Both teams yelled. Come on, Dad, please, no more D ranks, they're terrible. N groaned. Ryzen glared at his son. There is a reason I am giving you these D rank missions. In a few weeks' time the Chunin exams will be in Konoha and I am thinking of sending your teams to represent Kumogakure. The 6 genin looked at the Raikage in shock and stood up straighter. You mean we're gonna go to Konoha and kick? Alright, N yelled out since he was always looking for a good fight. So we're going to be pitted against genin from other countries. But what if another country sends in Junin who are disguised as genin and we end up fighting against them and I'm the only one who lives and everyone will think Kumo is weak since everyone but me died and they decide to attack Kumo because of it, which will then lead to the 4th Great Shinobi War and people will then always remember me as the harbinger making me live a life of shame, Omoi said. Karui then bonked him on the head for his comment, and then decided to rear his friend. Don't worry, Omoi, no one can beat us. We're gonna be the top dogs of this thing, and when we win we're going to all be Chunin and getting to wear the bling. N said. What bling? Karui asked him. The flak jacket, N said. Moving on. Ryzen yelled to get the genin's attention that looked at their leader Embered that they got off topic. After muttering about rude genin he continued on, while I want you 6 to go to be promoted, this is also a mission. Seeing that he had everyone's attention he spoke again. Your mission is simple and has 2 objectives. One is to all make it to the final round which will be fighting and to show everyone why Kumo is the most powerful nation. And second is to defeat a certain individual. He then held up a picture of a dark-haired boy in blue clothes. He had a frown on his face and had black eyes, and swore he had seen him somewhere. And then noticed the clan symbol. It's Itachi-sensei's little brother Sasuke. N clarified. The Raikage nodded toward his son. Yes, your job is to defeat Sasuke Uchiha in the final round. The reason for this is since many people will want to see the last, loyal, Uchiha and the clan's heir fighting. If one of you defeat him then it will prove to everyone there, especially the nobles and visiting daimyos, that Kumo has the most powerful ninja. If we defeated the clan heir to one of the founding clans of Konoha and the last loyal Uchiha, Ryzen looked at them seriously, and I hope I need not to remind you kids to not mention anything about Itachi, as Konoha still has no idea he has joined our country. If they found out the one who killed the entire Uchiha clan is a shinobi of our village we could find ourselves being invaded. The genin nodded their heads seriously as war was the last thing they needed at the moment. Very well, you are dismissed. You and your senseis will spend the next couple weeks either training or doing missions, Ryzen said. B.N. Yugito, stay here for a minute. Everyone minus those 3 left the room. Ryzen looked at them with a serious look on his face. Since all 3 of you will be going to the Chunin exams, with N and Yugito competing to become Chunin while your team is also competing B, that means that all of Kumo's Jinchuriki will be in Konoha. While none of you have been trained in your Bu's chakra, there is still a chance of you activating it in a fight or when your emotions run high. And you especially have to be careful since if they find out you're the Kyuubi Jinchuriki they could find about your heritage and will no doubt try to capture you. This goes for all 3 of you since Konoha have no Jinchuriki in their possession. While I doubt the Hokage would try to do such a thing, I don't doubt that there is one person in Konoha who would love a chance to capture one of you and extract your Bu to make their own Jinchuriki. Ryzen's eyes narrowed and he clenched his fists and pressed them against the desk, making small craters from the pressure, but if any of them even try to do that, they'll regret it, as I would come after them and would kill them slowly before they'll be begging for death, and not to mention we'd go to war, Ryzen declared, as he spoke the truth, as the only thing he loved as much as Kumo was his family, and he'd be damned if one of them was killed and he wouldn't do anything about it. He loved his sons and Yugito, whom he saw as a daughter, and would do anything to save them if they were ever captured. Don't worry, Pops, about me and Lil 9 and Little Miss 2. If Konoha tries to capture on of us, we'll kick their ass where it's due. B rapped before he was bonked on the head by Yugito. Honestly, you 2 drive me insane with your stupid rap. She sighed. Ryzen chuckled. Also try and not an ember kumo with your rap, he added where N and B muttered about people hating their rhymes. Yugito couldn't help but smile. N had told he about how his biological father was Minato Namikaze. While she was surprised about that small piece of information, it didn't change anything between them since N was still N. Though if Konoha even tried to take N-kun from her, they'd have to go through her first. I agree kitten, you need to make sure they don't take your mate, Nibi said from her seal. Nibi, we're not even dating much less mates, Yugito said in her mind. Well, you will be dating one day, it's so obvious how much you like each other, and we can have you become mates early. There's a nice closet where you and N can do some naughty things without anyone hearing you, Nibi said with a Cheshire grin, sending Yugito images of her and N doing some very naughty things in a closet. Nibi, Yugito screamed in her head, her face turning very red. Yugito, are you okay? Raizen asked the young Nibi Jinchuriki, who had suddenly gotten very red. Yugito blinked, coming back to reality before blushing since everyone was looking at her. Yes, I'm fine. Raizen nodded his head, though he was still a little suspicious. For the next couple of weeks leading up to the exams, you will either be training or on missions. Raizen stood up and looked at them with a smile. Come on, let's go get something to eat. My treat, you guys earned it. He said, where the Jinchuriki trio followed him out of the office. As they were walking down the street, many people would bow in respect to their Raikage, while some ninja would nod their heads slightly to B. It was a large surprise to N and Yugito when people would nod their heads with a smile. Raizen chuckled at Yugito and N's expression. They're proud of you. It's not every day that we get Konoha's scroll of sealing, find a base that was Orochimaru's, gain a valuable ally, and have a new bloodline user and a member of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist join, because of you two. B grinned. Ah yay, we're getting this done, soon we'll be liked by everyone. Yeah, Raizen chuckled at his second oldest son's comment, you're getting there, I don't doubt for a second that you three will finally turn everyone's opinions around. The 2 genin, 1 jonin, and Raikage then went to Kicho's and had a nice dinner, all the while laughing and joking with each other. A few days later, Team Darui had been training for the past few days to get ready for the Chunin exams. The Raikage had then given them a C-rank mission to deliver a package to the Land of Hot Water, which was located between the Land of Sound and Frost. The country used to have a shinobi village. Yugakure before became more peaceful until they decided to not be a ninja village anymore. Now the country was known for its hot springs. They were in a small village that was a popular place for tourists due to its many hot springs. N was currently walking through the village bored out of his mind. Darui had gone with Yugito and Co to give the package to the client while N decided to explore the village. He got bored very quickly, so he decided to go train. He found a hot spring that didn't have people in it since it wasn't surrounded by a bathhouse. He took off his shirt so not to get it wet and started to water walk on it. It was an idea he had thought of when he was a kid. If he fell in the water he'd be scalded, so he had extra motivation to stay on top of the water longer. After several hours of this he started to grow bored and decided to head back towards the location he was supposed to meet up with his team. As he was doing this he passed by a women's only bathhouse. As he passed by he heard giggling. Growing curious he followed the sound until he found the source. High up in a tree there was a man with a spiegel looking at the woman's bathhouse. Because there was steam coming from the bathhouse he couldn't make out the features of the man, but he could hear his mutters which went like, oh yes, this will be great for my next book. N's eyebrow twitched since he didn't like peepers before he started to grin. In a flash he charged lightning chakra to his arm and he struck the base of the tree that held the pervert, which caused it to break in 1,000 pieces as the tree started to fall, the pervert screaming all the way. Screams came from the bathhouse as N Umed the women were leaving the hot springs. The pervert was picking himself of the ground. N's grin slipped off his face as he took in the man's features. White spiky hair, red markings under his eyes, a headband that had the kanji for oil, a red traditional ghetto with 2 yellow circles on each side. N paled realized exactly who this man was. Jiraiya of the Sannin, the one person his father had warned him about since the man was currently searching the countries for him. One thought came to him as he assessed the situation. Shit. N tried to calm himself down. Jiraiya had never seen him before and there were lots of blonde-haired boys his age. There was no way that Jiraiya could realize he is the son of his student. But then N remembered something that brought a chill down his spine. He wasn't wearing his shirt. Now normally that wouldn't matter, but he had been practicing his chakra control, which whenever he did, the seal that contained Kyuubi inside him would appear, and it didn't help. N just used chakra to destroy the tree, which meant that his seal was showing right now. Glancing down, he saw with horror that his seal was shown. There was without a doubt that Jiraiya would recognize his student's seal. He had after all trained the man. Jiraiya by then had gotten back to his feet and turned angrily towards the one who had interrupted his research. Hey you stupid Gaki, why'd you, he started to say before he saw a seal on the boy's stomach. A seal that was drawn in a certain way. The way Minato's seals would be drawn. He quickly looked over the boy. Blonde spiky hair, bright blue eyes. It was like looking at Minato back when he was a genin. Oh my god. Oh, N thought as he saw Jiraiya study him over before he looked at the boy, and N swore he heard him whisper the word, Naruto. Before N could react, Jiraiya was behind him and with a quick chop to the back of the boy's neck, making the boy fall into unconsciousness. Jiraiya quickly scooped the boy up and started to run in a certain destination, the way to Konoha. Kit, Kit, Kit. A voice roared in N's head. Wah, Kyuubi, is that you? N thought groggily. A snort came from his head. No, it's the Sugar Plum Fairy. Who the do you think it is? What's going on? The last thing I remember is, N realized with a start, the event replaying in his mind. N then realized that he was currently tied up and on the ground. Ah crap, dad's going to kill me. N thought frantically. That is if you can get back home. This is Jiraiya of the Sannin. You can't beat this guy, you need to escape, fast. Kyuubi said. N, knowing the fox was speaking the truth, knew he couldn't fight this guy. Carefully moving his fingers and toes to make sure they were fully woken up after he had been knocked unconscious, he tried to break the ropes that had been tied around him, but they didn't break. N saw a seal on the rope. N, recognizing the seal, saw that it was a seal to suck out chakra and to make the ropes as strong as steel. Shit. This is bad. I could probably break out using your chakra, but then if Darui finds out about it, then dad will defiantly kill me. N thought. So you're up. A voice spoke, making N jerk his head around to see Jiraiya sitting by a fire eating some soup. N realized that it was nighttime. His team was probably looking for him by now. N, not knowing what to say to the man who had kidnapped, chose a simple thing. He glared at him. He glared at him so hard that Jiraiya thought that he might combust. Let me go, you hole. N shouted, trying once again to break free of his bonds. Naruto, calm down. I'm a friend, Jiraiya said soothingly, hoping it would calm the short-tempered boy. Okay, first off, I have no idea who this Naruto guy is, and second, you kidnapped me. N said before he started to yell at the top of his lungs, help, I've been kidnapped by a rapist. Help. Jiraiya bonked the boy on the head. I'm not a rapist. He yelled back at the boy. N rolled his eyes. Sorry, he said before once again yelling at the top of his lungs, help, I've been kidnapped by a pedophile. Help me. I'm not a pedophile either. Jiraiya yelled. Then please explain to me why you tied up a 12-year-old boy after knocking him unconscious and I'm not wearing a shirt, N said with a deadpan. Jiraiya's eye twitched. First of all, I never took your shirt off, it was already off when I found you, and second, I'm your friend Naruto. Again, have no clue on who this Naruto guy is. My name is N. Say it with me, N. It's one letter, pretty easy to remember. Jiraiya's eyes darkened. Is that what you're called by? Who has been taking care of you? Why are you a Kumo ninja? He asked, as one of the first things he had found out about the boy was the headband of Kumogakure on his forehead. Yes, that my name, and for being a Kumo ninja. I'm from Kumo. Hell, my dad is the Raikage. N said. Jiraiya's eyebrows rose. So it was Kumo who took you. Jiraiya then looked at the boy straight in the eyes. Listen, N, whatever the Raikage has told you about being his son, he is lying, you're really the son of, he started to say, but N interrupted him. Yay, the fourth Hokage, I know that already. N yelled out. What? Why, you know? How? Dad told me, N said simply. Jiraiya looked at him incredulous. You mean you know? Why didn't you leave and come back to Konoha, the place you were born? Why would you stay in the place that kidnapped you? A country of thieves that would steal a baby for power. N glared at him. Never insult Kumo in front of me. Ga, if I wasn't tied up, I'd kick your. He roared as he didn't like him calling his country a country of thieves. He especially didn't like having his eldest brother being called a thief and taking him for power. He defiantly has Kushina's temper, Jiraiya thought as he saw the boy struggling to get out of his bonds, all the while yelling at him and saying that when he got out he'd kick his. You still haven't answered my question, Naru. He stopped when he saw En glare at him and sighed, fine, you still haven't answered my question, En. First of all, I wasn't kidnapped, I was given, so it's not a kidnapping, and second, why would I abandon my family? My friends. The people who I've sworn to protect. For a place I don't even know. With no one there for me. No way, I'm a shinobi of Kumogakure and I ain't a betrayer. I'd rather die than leave it. En said. Given. What do you mean you were given? Why should I tell you? And why have you been looking for me for the past 12.5 years? En asked him. I'm your godfather, En, Jiraiya said. I always knew you were alive, the clues were everywhere. Minato was the best seal master, and when he sealed the Kyuubi away, but there was nothing there at the site where he did it, and he obviously needed something to seal the Bu away, and you were being born then, no fox and no baby, it was obvious someone had taken you. The third Hokage agreed with me. En stopped struggling against his bonds before looking at his godfather in the eyes. Just let me go. If you don't let me go, my dad is going to be pissed, and so will my big brothers. They'll probably declare war on Konoha trying to get me back, please. Jiraiya looked at him with pained eyes. En, you have no idea how long I've been looking for you, and now I've found you. I made a promise to Minato I'd protect his son, and I won't fail my student like I've failed so many others. So you think kidnapping me and taking me to a place I've never been to before, with people finding out the Bu that attacked their village and killed so many people, and they'll despise me, I'll be all alone, I won't have anyone. I have people in Kumo who are my friends or family, they are the reason why I fight, why I get stronger, so I can protect them. En declared. Quote, You're defiantly Minato's son, Jiraiya said as he remembered the same look in his student's eyes when he said he was going to protect his loved ones. His son's eyes had the same fire burning in them. The will of fire. Look, just let me go and I'll take you to Pops, maybe you two can work something out. En said. Jiraiya just looked at the fire deep in thought. If I take him with me to Konoha, he'll no doubt be despised when people find out he is the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Not to mention, if what he says is right, then the third Raikage will be pissed and declare war on Konoha, something we really don't need right now, but this is my godson, I have to help him. I wonder, since I'm on leave, I could take him as an apprentice and teach him how to protect himself, he's the closest thing I have to family now, Jiraiya thought. He sighed. Fine, I'll release you, but I want to go back to Kumo with you, I need to ask the Raikage something. En grinned. Alright, now can you let me go, I'm kinda losing the feelings to my arms and legs, he said. Jiraiya chuckled. Okay, let me get rid of the seal sai. He paused as he heard something to his left. Jiraiya's shinobi instincts kicked in as he quickly jumped far away from where he was. It was a good thing he did so, since the second he left, a black panther made of lightning had rushed towards him, before hitting a tree causing a large explosions. Jiraiya and En, he had to twist his body around to see in that direction, look toward where the jutsu had come from, though En already knew who it was. Darui was on a tree branch on the opposite side of the clearing with Yugito and Ko near him. They looked pissed. A couple hours before, with Team Darui. Team Darui minus En had just finished delivering the package to the client and were now looking for their wayward student teammate. There was a problem though. They had no idea where he was. Yugito, try and find En's chakra signature. Darui said. Yugito nodded her head before using her sensor abilities. She found En's chakra quite quickly due to being with him so much. I found it, he's on the other side of the town. And they set off to find the blonde rapper. They soon arrived to where En had been training his water walking. Yugito was still trying to find his exact location. I sense a small chakra residue over by the right. After heading towards it, they found themselves at the women's bathhouse. Is he trying to peek on girls? Yugito said with a twitching eye. No, I doubt En is the type of person to do that, Ko reasoned. They followed the trail before coming across a shattered tree. Yep, En was defiantly here, Ko said with a sigh. Guys, there was another signature here with him. And even just glancing at it, the other guy has at least cage level chakra reserves. Yugito said, alarmed. The other two tensed. crap do you think he was kidnapped? He is the third Raikage's son after all, I bet lots of people would try and kidnap him. Ko said, man, even when we leave him alone for a few hours something like this happens, why can't things be dull? This is bad, I've seen Ryzen-sensei when he gets annoyed and it seems all hell breaks loose. If someone kidnapped N he will be pissed and I doubt anything could get in his way if he found out who did it. A and B would no doubt help him, and those three together and pissed off, Darui said before shuddering, no one could beat them, and I'll help them, no one kidnaps my student. No matter how annoying his rap is. We should follow the trail, though I doubt Yugito or I could beat the guy who kidnapped N, you may be able to defeat him sensei if we help. Ko said. Yugito nodded her head, well what are we waiting for, we need to save N-kun. She said before tree hopping towards the small trail of the kidnapper's chakra trail, the others not far behind. After an hour of fast-paced tree hopping, Yugito announced they were catching up to the kidnapper. They hid far enough where they could see but the kidnapper couldn't see them. They were very alarmed to see that the kidnapper was Jiraiya of the Sannin. They could see N tied up, N seemed to be talking to the man. What are we going to do, guys? We need a plan. This guy is a Sannin, we need a strategy. Ko said. Darui stood up. Stay here you two, I'll handle this. Darui-sensei, you may be strong but I don't think you can beat this guy. Yugito said. It doesn't matter as long as we get N. I'll hold him up while you two get N, the second you do run. What about you, Darui-sensei? Ko asked him worriedly. Silence reigned before the older man spoke. Don't worry about me, Ko, worry about N. Darui then unleashed the Black Panther, a jutsu he had created when he had learned the Black Lightning by the Raikage. He cursed when he saw the Sannin dodge it. You seem to have one of my students, Jiraiya of the Sannin, let him go. Darui-sensei. N called out. Jiraiya held up his hands, hoping to stop a fight from breaking out. Hold up, he quickly moved to the side when a stream of fire was shot at him, courtesy of Yugito. Let go of N-kun. She yelled. Wait, Yugito-chan. Darui-sensei. Ko, calm down, he's a good guy. N yelled out. N, what are you talking about? This guy just kidnapped you and you're saying he's a good guy. Ko said. N nodded his head. Yeah, he was just about to let me go. Yeah, Jiraiya said. Darui looked at the two. Let him go then. Jiraiya nodded his head before releasing the seals on the rope which allowed N to break them. N looked over at his team. He's going to come back to Kumo with us. N, we can't just take him to Kumo. What if he tries something? Darui said. I swear as a Sannin I won't try anything, Jiraiya swore. Darui thought deeply on this before he sighed. Damn, I guess we have no choice since I doubt I could defeat you and I don't want to risk my students' lives in a fight that can be settled without fighting. Very well, you may come with us. He turned toward his student. I don't think things will be very dull when your father finds out you brought a Sannin into our village, he warned him to where N paled slightly. After this the 4 Kumo shinobi and 1 Sannin headed towards Kumogakure. After a few days of traveling they finally arrived to the gates of the village. The 4 shinobi relaxed upon seeing their home. Yugito and N were especially happy to be back since they were hoping to get away from one pervert. Flashback. As the shinobi headed towards Kumogakure, Jiraiya noticed N and Yugito running beside him and were talking together. He grinned perversely as he remembered how defensive Yugito had gotten and how she had tried to burn him to try and rescue N. He also noticed how she called him N-kun, and he called her, Yugito-chan. With that being said, his pervy mind went to work where he started to giggle perversely. So are you guys? You know. Jiraiya asked the 2 genin with a knowing look. What are you talking about? N asked, not knowing where he was going. You know. He held up his pinky finger still grinning. N and Yugito blushed deeply. N, no, we're not. N stuttered out. Ko, who had been a little ahead of them, called back. Yes they are. They're just too stubborn to admit they like each other. Shut up, Ko. Yugito and N yelled at the same time. The brown-haired boy merely laughed. Jiraiya started to giggle perversely. Oh ho, I think I've found the stars of my next series of Ika Ika. He cried happily. Somewhere in Konoha a lazy Juin reading said story all the while ignoring his genin team froze and put his hand on his heart. My pervy senses are tingling. I feel like my life has reached total happiness. Something great is going to happen in the future, he whispered happily. Back with the pervy Sanin, Jiraiya was still giggling perversely as he thought of all the new material he could get from his godson, as he could see that while Yugito was young she was still quite the catch and was already growing a figure, and in a few years she would have to beat back the boys with a stick. The rest of the trip was spent with Jiraiya giving En and Yugito tips on the art of erotic love, which made both couldn't look at one another without blushing deeply from what the pervert had said. The shinobi had entered the gates of Kumo, after giving heart attacks to Shisen and Nukogiri when they saw Jiraiya of the Sanin was with them. When En and the others had reached the Raikage's office, En had asked Kurai to tell his dad that he was here. He figured he may as well wait, since if he went in now he would probably be killed by his dad for running into the one person he was supposed to stay away from. En shivered. After a while Kurai said he could go in. En went in alone. En's father was looking at him with a serious expression. All right En, what's wrong? Ya always barge in unannounced and now you're telling Kurai to tell me you're here. What the hell did you do? Ryzen asked suspiciously. En attempted to grin but it didn't work, which made the older man even more suspicious. Will you know how I was never supposed to run into Jiraiya of the Sanin? He asked him timidly. Before Ryzen could answer, the door opened revealing the Toad Sage in front of Team Darui. Ryzen's eyes widened before hardening and he glared at En, who started to sweat a little. Well, he kinda found me, he said, watching as his dad seemed to swell up in anger. All of a sudden En felt his dad's hands choking him. You idiot! Ryzen roared before slamming his third son against the wall while Team Darui and Jiraiya shrank away from the pissed off Cage. I tell you one simple thing. One thing, and that was not to run into the Toad Sage. Ryzen roared while with each word he slammed the blonde Jinchuriki further and further into the wall again and again, causing a hole to appear, and it was getting bigger every time En was slammed into the wall. En meanwhile had given up trying to get out of his father's iron grip as he started to turn blue from the lack of oxygen. Uncle, I think you're about to kill En-kun. Yugito said worriedly as she watched her fellow blonde and Jinchuriki turning purple. Ryzen seemed to shake off his anger before taking a deep breath, and he released En, who fell to the ground with a gasp trying to get oxygen. Ryzen then turned his attention to Jiraiya. Hi, Jiraiya said with a small wave. Ryzen's eye twitched before he sighed and sat back down in his chair. How the hell did you run into En, Jiraiya-sama? Well, you see, I was in this tree doing research and he kinda destroyed the tree I was in. Ryzen groaned. Of course. Jiraiya turned serious. You have some explaining to do, Raikage Dono, he said. Ryzen closed his eyes before nodding curtly before turning toward Team Darui. Please leave while I handle this. Darui and Yugito nodded their heads before leaving. En wanted to complain but he could still feel the choking that his dad had given and decided to leave. How the hell did En end up in your possession, Raikage Dono? En told me he was given but he didn't tell me what he meant, so I have one thing to say. Explain. Jiraiya said with a serious expression on his face. Ryzen sighed. I guess I have no choice but to tell you. For the next few hours Ryzen told Jiraiya of how his eldest son had found baby En in the embrace of his dead father and dying mother, of how the mother asked to protect him, how had brought En to Kumo, how Ryzen had adopted En as his third son. He told the Sanin of En's childhood, how many people feared En, but how he still went through the day with a smile on his face. He told him of the times they had spent as a family. He told him how he had trained En to help him grow stronger. He told him of how he had told En of his heritage and how he came to Kumo and he still thought of them as family. Jiraiya was silent the entire time. After the Sandame Raikage had finished speaking, he closed his eyes and thought deeply. En loved his home and family. That much was clear. He knew that if he tried to take him away from that, En would fight against it with everything he had, and the Raikage and En's brothers would fight to keep him here. He was their son brother after all. He couldn't take En away from that. But he had promised Minato when he had said that he would be his child's godfather. He had spent En's entire life searching for him and now he had found him. He, as his godfather, had to help him. En was the only family he had left. He had always thought of Minato as a son and that made En a grandson. As Minato's sensei, he had to take care of Minato's legacy, even if the legacy didn't want to be Minato's legacy. It was then that Jiraiya thought of an idea, a small sliver of a plan that could either flourish or make shit hit the fan. I won't take N from Kumo Raikage Dono, Jiraiya said, making Raizen sigh slightly in relief, but I want to take him as an apprentice. Jiraiya declared. The third had been expecting many things to come from the man's mouth, but never this, Nani. He said, not believing what he was saying. N, I want to take him as my apprentice. Raizen narrowed his eyes. This is a surprise, Jiraiya-sama, but how do I not know that you're lying to take N to Konoha the second he is out of my sight? And besides, you're one of Konoha's legendary Sannin, not Kumo's. I doubt you can take a shinobi of another nation as an apprentice, much less the son of a cage. Lord Raikage, N is the closet thing I have to family now that Minato is gone, and correct, I am one of the Sannin, but I was given leave by sensei to roam the world. That means I can take an apprentice if I wanted to. Jiraiya looked at the man dead on in the eyes. N needs to be strong. If people find out he is Minato's son, he will have many enemies, not to mention any enemies you've made. N needs to be strong. I have a feeling in a few years he is going to need all the help he can get. Very well, Raizen said before looking at the man and started to concentrate some ki on the younger man, making Jiraiya sweat. But if you betray my trust and kidnap my son. Raizen trailed off, but the meaning was still quite clear. I understand, Raikage Dono, Jiraiya said before decided to ask something that had been bothering him. Tell me, Raikage Dono, is Yugito a Jinchuriki? Silence reigned in the room as Raizen inspected the man. His face didn't give anything away. He then spoke. What makes you think that, Jiraiya-sama? He said with a guarded voice. Back when I was with N and his team heading here, I noticed how large her chakra reserves were. Hell, they were as big as their sensei. It could mean that she had a bloodline limit or was simply a skilled shinobi, but then we entered Kumo. I saw the glares of the villagers. At first I assumed that they were glaring at N, but I saw they were also looking at Yugito too, so am I correct? Jiraiya stated. Raizen's eyes narrowed before he sighed. Yes, Yugito is the Jinchuriki of the Nibi. Jiraiya nodded his head. Yes, many are aware that Kumo holds the Hachibi and Nibi. Who's the Hachibi Jinchuriki? Raizen glared at the man. You ask a lot of questions. For the Jinchuriki's safety I would rather not say. You may be willing to help N, but I bet you will tell your Hokage that N is alive and that Yugito is the Nibi Jinchuriki. I won't have anyone hurt them. I have to respect that. Jiraiya said. He was thinking of whom the Jinchuriki could be. He would have to be related to a Raikage. A silence crept into the room before Jiraiya had to ask another question that he needed to know. Has N been taught any control of the Kyuubi's chakra? No. Raizen's answer was quick. N, Yugito, and the Hachibi Jinchuriki are too young to be able to handle such power. I've lost some of my best Jonin trying to control the Hachibi and all have fallen. They just aren't ready, at least that's what I tell the council. He said the last part with a mutter, not intent with Jiraiya hearing him, but he still did. You're afraid you may lose them. Raizen seemed to deflate at this and looked at the toad sage with weary eyes. At this moment the Raikage looked frail and looking like someone his age. I'm an old man, Jiraiya-sama, and one day I won't be here to protect them. I will one day take my place as Raikage and I hope I'll be there to see it. But the council is tricky and they would love the chance of trying to kill any of them. Most clan heads are on the Jinchuriki's sides save a few, but the villager sides loathes them. Isn't very good with politics and will still be inexperienced with becoming Raikage, and they may get bolder. They'll start to pressure that they should start their BU training. They're just kids. Grown men and women have tried and failed, so how are two 12-year-olds and an 18-year-old going to control the most powerful beings in the elemental nations? I don't want to lose my family, not like that. Jiraiya was silent as the man told him his fears. He seemed to be saying it to himself, not Jiraiya. He couldn't even comprehend what it would feel like. As the Raikage he had to put the village first, but as a father he wanted his children to live and experience life. Raizen was right. They were too young, too weak to fight for control against the strongest beings in the elemental nations. When A became Raikage he would try to protect them, but he will be inexperienced and that can give the less bold haters become bolder. If that happens then they may force the three Jinchuriki to do their BU training, which would kill them. I'll train N with the best of my ability. I'll train him everything I know, and maybe one day N will gain full control of the Kyuubi. Jiraiya said. That still leaves Yugito and the Hachibi Jinchuriki. I think they will succeed. Jiraiya smiled. Just being around them, I could see the determination in En and Yugito's eyes. Don't sell them out yet, Raikage Dono, and I'm guessing the Hachibi Jinchuriki is just like them. Raizen smiled. Trust me, if you ever compared him with En, you'd think they were twins. Jiraiya smiled at that. He turned towards the window before looking out at the village hidden in the clouds. Trust in the next generation, Raikage Dono, they may just surprise you. Opening square bracket, closing square bracket, 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 closing square bracket, opening 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 square bracket, closing square bracket. After discussing about En's training, the third Raikage called back En. He dismissed the rest of Team Darui and they all left, though Yugito looked hesitant before En told her to not worry. "Sue, are you still pissed at me?" En asked. "Yes," Raizen said bluntly. "Aw man. Anyway, En, we need to discuss some things," Raizen said, making En nervous. "I'm not going to Konoha, am I? I don't want to. Kumo is my home." Raizen smiled at his son. "No, you will not be going to Konoha, but Jiraiya-sama has an interesting proposition for you." "What is it?" En asked curiously. Jiraiya spoke up. "I'm going to take you as my apprentice," he announced with a grin. "EHHH. Jiraiya grinned. "Yep, I'm taking you as my apprentice. But you're a Konoha ninja, isn't that like illegal or something?" En asked, scratching his head. Jiraiya smirked. "Well, it would be if I wasn't a Sanin and didn't have a leave of absence that allows me to take in any person I want as an apprentice." En glanced at his dad. "And you're okay with this?" The third nodded his head. "Yes, I do. You need to get stronger and Jiraiya will help you." En grinned. "Alright. Opening square bracket, closing square bracket, 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 opening square bracket, closing closing square bracket opening square bracket 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 closing square bracket. Word seemed to spread that none other than Jiraiya of the Sannin was training the youngest son of the Sandaime Raikage and the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. While the civilians were not privy to this yet, the entire shinobi force knew of it and were discussing on what this meant. When some certain Jonin had asked the Raikage on why a member of Konoha was teaching the demon child, the third replied in his usual attitude. He told them to shut their mouths and mind their own business before promptly throwing them out the window. Needless to say, no one asked again. When A had found out N had run into the one person he wasn't supposed to meet barely a few weeks after being told not to, A then used his iron clawjutsu that he had created for one purpose and one purpose only. To punish B and N whenever they did something stupid, and this defiantly took the cake. It was pretty well known of how much B and N feared that Jutsu or their angry big brother, and they always tried to not do stupid things when he was around, but it always seemed to happen anyway. Bad things just loved to come to them. After a few days of training with Jiraiya, who had been trying to see what N's skill level was, Jiraiya said they were going to be doing something special today. They were currently in a small bowl-shaped plateau in the lower mountain regions, as this was a good place for the training. Jiraiya bit his finger and did hand seals before shouting, summoning jutsu. And a large orange toad with green markings appeared with a scroll in his tongue. The toad let go of the scroll and gave it to N. N looked at the pervert confused, so Jiraiya decided to explain, "It's the toad's summoning contract, N. If you sign this, then you will be able to summon battle toads to help you. It's considered one of the strongest summoning animals." Sugoi, N said excitably, as he had always wanted a summoning animal. Looks like he's got one now. N unraveled the scroll and found a blank spot. He glanced to the name next to it and was shocked to see the words Namikaze Minato on it with black ink, while Jiraiya's was red. Jiraiya noticed where N was looking. "Yes, your father was a summoner too. Since he is gone, his name faded black." N didn't say anything, but he stared at his biological father's name. N seemed to break out of thought before saying, "You want me to become his legacy, don't you?" he whispered. Jiraiya looked at the boy who was staring up at him before nodding. "You are his legacy, N." N nodded before biting his finger and writing Yatsuki N in a blank space by his father's. It glowed white before fading to red. "Now channel chakra and use the hand seals and you should be able to summon a toad. You need blood to do so," Jiraiya said. N bit his palm before going through the hand seals and slammed his hand on the ground and yelled out, "Kuchio's no jutsu," and a seal appeared on the ground before a small cloud of smoke appeared. When the smoke cleared, it showed a small tadpole with 2 legs trying to move on the ground. N looked at the tadpole in awe while Jiraiya watched with a deadpan. Yahoo, I did it, yo. Now that's how it goes. N yelled out happily. It's a tadpole. Jiraiya said. Well, it has legs, so it's technically a toad, N reasoned. Jiraiya slapped his hand on his face. It's still a tadpole. He yelled. He sighed. Well, it was good for your first try. He concluded. So should I try and add more chakra into it? N asked, where Jiraiya nodded his head. Kuchio's no jutsu, N yelled again before a larger poof of smoke appeared. It revealed a small orange toad wearing a blue jacket. Yo, the toad said with a wave. N grinned. I did it. He yelled happily. Jiraiya smiled at the boy's accomplishment. Nice job, N. The toad looked at them in confusion. So why'd you summon me, Jiraiya? Am I gonna kick butt? This is the first time I've ever been summoned, so I gotta be needed for a fight. The toad said happily. Yo, my name is N and I'm the one who summoned you. So what's your name, Toad, so we can say to this perv adieu? N rapped. While Jiraiya was irate with N calling him a perv, he was slightly impressed that N managed to think of that rhyme on the fly. Name's is Gamakichi Kid, the now known Gamakichi said. Yo, N said and held out his hand for a fist bump, which Gamakichi returned. Jiraiya watched with a small smile as N started to chat with Gamakichi. Even though they barely knew each other, Jiraiya could see they were going to be good friends. He coughed, bringing his student and summon's attention back on him. Well, nice job, N. It usually takes a couple tries to get a toad the size of Gamakichi, but now here's the real test. You need to summon the boss. N grinned. Alright. For the next couple of hours, N tried and failed to summon the boss toad. He had gotten some large toads but not the boss. He was starting to get frustrated. You know you need my help, Kyuubi commented from inside the seal. I can give you some of my chakra and you could easily summon the boss. I can't exactly just whip out a cloak with the perv right there, N said. We both know that you won't need a full cloak, just a little. If he senses it, he'll think it's cause you're angry. You know you want to summon the boss. N sighed, thinking it over before mentally nodding. Let's do it. Jiraiya was in a tree on a mountain, high above N with Gamakichi watching besides him. His eyes narrowed slightly when he swore he saw a faint outline of red chakra coming from N. Since N was facing away from him, he couldn't see that N's blue eyes were now red with a slit. N bit his finger once more and went through the hand seals before yelling out, Kuchio's no jutsu. A large poof of smoke surrounded N. Unlike the others, this one was by far the largest as it was bigger and wider than a building. When the smoke cleared, N was standing on the head of a gigantic toad, the head of the toads, Gamabunta. Yes, I did it. N yelled happily, jumping up and down, happy that he had finally summoned the great toad. Hey Gaki, stop jumping on my head. A loud voice boomed out, making N stop celebrating. Realizing that Gamabunta was the one who spoke, he jumped down onto his nose to look at the toad face to face. Gamabunta looked at N with narrowed eyes. He took a puff from his pipe before slowly blowing it out. The smoke reached N, making him gag slightly from the smell. Who are you? Where's Jiraiya? Why'd he summon me here? Well, actually, Boss Toad, Pervy Sage didn't summon you. I did, N said. Silence crept in before. Bwahahaha, oh man, I haven't heard a joke like that for a while. There is no way a little kid like you could summon me. Seriously, brat, where's Jiraiya? Gamabunta roared in laughter. N's eye twitched. He charged Crimson Lightning to both his hands and jumped up before slamming his fists into the giant toad's nose as hard as he could. Gamabunta's head bobbed and he hit some of the higher trees from the force, as he hadn't expected a kid to have so much strength. He glared at the boy with anger, with N glaring back at him. Listen, yo, I summoned you, Toad. That means I'm your boss now. N said, trying to be intimidating. Gamabunta's eyes narrowed before he smirked. HMPH, tell you what, Gaki, I'll cut you a deal. If you can stay on my back till sunset, you're my boss, but if I win, I refuse to acknowledge you as my summoner. N grinned before hopping on the toad's back. Bring it on. You're going to regret saying that. And Gamabunta then jumped 50 feet in the air with N desperately holding on to the boss toad's vest. With Jiraiya, the renowned toad sage was staring at the airborne Gamabunta and watched as the great toad hit the ground, causing a loud thud that jostled the ground and made him lose his balance slightly. Gamakichi was looking at his dad with awe. Yeah, Dad. He yelled happily, though Gamabunta couldn't hear him. Jiraiya glanced at the small toad. I thought you wanted to have N as your summoner, why are you cheering on your father? If he wins N can't summon you guys. Gamakichi shrugged. Well yeah I do want him to summon S, but dad is so awesome. Jiraiya couldn't help but smile at the energetic toad. He kept watching Gamabunta hopping around the valley in an attempt to get N off his back, but N seemed to be hanging on. He was surprised no one had come to investigate what the noises were from, as Gamabunta was destroying most of the valley, though the mountains kept him confined to that one valley which was quite large. Jiraiya then sensed a familiar chakra signature along with another signature and looked over his shoulder to see the Raikage along with a behind them. What's going on? I could hear noises from here from my office. Ryzen asked. Oh, just a small training exercise. Jiraiya said dismissively. A quirked an eyebrow. What kind of small training exercise could make this much noise? He asked. The two then noticed something coming down from the low clouds. Gamabunta landed with another large thud before quickly hopping around the valley and moving to different sides. They noticed N on the toad's back hanging on for dear life. N has to stay on dad's back until sundown. If he wins he is dad's boss, Gamakichi chipped in. Suddenly two large chakra signatures reached the three and they saw Yugito and B-Tree hoping towards them. Yo pops bro, what's going on do ya know? B asked them. A's eye twitched at his brother's rap before gesturing to the toad boss and explained what was going on. Alright and you got this. B cheered. Opening square bracket closing square bracket 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 opening square bracket closing square bracket. The next couple hours were hectic. N was still hanging on while Gamabunta was still trying to get him off. The sun was on the horizon and was soon to set. Looks like he did it, Jiraiya said. When N saw the sun about to set he smiled. I told you I'd win, I'm your summoner now. He didn't finish and became unconscious from exhaustion, he fell off the toad's head. N. Ryzen, A, B, Yugito, and Jiraiya yelled as they saw the boy falling towards his death. Ryzen and A got ready to rescue the boy from death, but before they could do so Gamabunta's tongue grabbed N before he hit the ground and gently laid him on the ground. He was so close, Gamabunta said as the sun finally set. I've seen enough, I knew in the beginning that he summoned me. not to mention he has great determination and guts to stay on my back so long. Jiraiya, when the kid comes to tell him I've accepted him as my subordinate and he may summon me and my kin whenever he pleases. Gamabunta then disappeared in a poof of smoke. I gotta go guys, see ya later. Gamakichi said before he too disappeared in a poof of smoke. The others rushed toward En, who was still unconscious. They were relieved to see that he was just suffering from chakra exhaustion. I think this is enough for today, Jiraiya said as Raizen put En on his back. I'm surprised that you taught him summoning so fast, though I think some people in Konoha will be mighty upset to know that one of their strongest summoning animals can be summoned by someone from Kumo. Raizen said while Jiraiya chuckled. Ah well, what are those old farts going to do? He turned serious. When En summoned Gamabunta, I swore I saw red chakra coming from him, making everyone tense, though unbeknownst to them Yugito and B were afraid they may have been found out. You think he may have tapped into the fox's chakra because he was frustrated with not being able to summon the boss? Raizen asked the toad sage. Jiraiya nodded his head. That's what I'm umming. It wasn't anything large that could make him lose control or have the seal weaken. Hopefully it was just En being frustrated. Since he has no control of the fox's chakra, it would be easy for him to access a small amount if he gets angry. Said, though he did notice that B and Yugito weren't looking at either of them and not talking, a rare feat for B. Don't worry you two, En's not going to lose control, not on my watch. Said, thinking they were worried about En accessing his Bu's chakra and could have lost control. Unbeknownst to the adults, Yugito and B were freaking out, though they managed to hide it. That baka. He knows not to use any of our Bu's chakra unless in the cave, and to do it right in front of Jiraiya-sama. I'm going to kill him when he wakes up. Yugito fumed. B noticed Yugito's angry expression. He knew what that meant. Oh, looks like Yugito is going to kill lil bro. I know one thing I ain't getting in the middle of an angry little miss too. I want to live and to die young is not cool, B thought. Raizen sighed. Hopefully this was a one-time thing. When En wakes up, don't tell him. I don't want to worry him. The others nodded their heads in agreement. They then headed back towards Kumogakure. They needed some rest, especially En. En had awoken the next morning. He was sad because he thought he couldn't summon the toads, but Jiraiya was quick to tell him he could, much to the boy's happiness. Of course, when Jiraiya had left, B and Yugito had come in, where Yugito started to strangle the poor boy for almost giving away their secret. He may have died had not B intervened. The next couple of days were a blur. En spent most of his time with Jiraiya learning jutsu that he could now use due to being able to summon the toads. Now the day had finally come. Teams 9 and 8 stood at the gates of Kumogakure. The Sandaime Raikage stood in front of them. Teams 9 and 8, it is time for the Chunin exams. You 6 will be representing Kumogakure this year. I expect the best from you. You know your mission. If you all make it to the finals, then I will be there to see if you have what it takes to be a Chunin of Kumogakure. The most wealthiest and influential noblemen and daimyos will be there. Show them what the hidden cloud is made of. I know you will not fail. Raizen announced with a grin. The 6 genin stood straighter when their leader told them he believed they would pee, and grinned. Alright guys, we gotta go. Konoha is waiting. Let's get this show on the road. He yelled. B grinned too. That's the spirit, little brother. Now let's go show these leaf ninja that Kumo ain't no pushover. He yelled before hugging his 3 students around their necks, making them start to go blue from lack of oxygen. Raizen sighed slightly at his 2 youngest sons. Darui, please make sure En and B don't ember our nation, he said, where B and En started to complain about people hating their art, which made the old Cage smile. Be careful, he said before heading back towards his office. The 2 teams started to head out of the gate. They didn't see the Raikage look back one last time. Good luck you 6, I know you'll make us proud, Raizen thought, though he was looking more at a certain blonde boy. In Konoha, in the village hidden in the leaves, the Sandaime Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen was seated in a large chair in front of a large table with multiple people sitting along the sides. They were the most powerful people in the village, from clan heads to wealthy businessmen. The civilian side was on the right whilst the shinobi side was on the left. Hiruzen's teammates Kaharu and Homura were seated on his right and left. The god of shinobi cleared his throat. Whatever idle conversations that had been going on stopped. Hiruzen stood up. As you all know, the Chunin exams are soon to begin. This time it will be in our village. He paused. Now as you know, that means that other genin will be coming from their respective villages. We are aware of this, Hokage-sama. Why have you called upon this meeting if you are just stating what we already know? Hiyashi Hyuga asked the elderly Kage. I received a request from Kumo for 2 of their genin teams to participate. Everyone was quiet at this. While they weren't currently fighting each other, Kumo and Konoha had always been enemies in the past. In fact, they hadn't heard anything important from Kumo for quite a while. For them to send 2 genin teams meant they were top genin. Is there anyone of interest in either team? Inoichi Yamanaka asked. Hiruzen nodded his head. Yes, there is, a young boy around the age of 12 and a half, his name, Yatsuki N. Gasps came from the civilian side while the shinobi only had widened eyebrows. Everyone knew of the Yatsuki clan. With the clan head being the Raikage while Yatsuki A was known as the fastest man alive, he was able to keep up with the Yondaime Hokage. But Hokage-sama, the Yatsuki clan only have 3 members, the Sandaime Raikage and his 2 sons A and B. A fat balding civilian by the name of Kurdo exclaimed. It appears there is one more. Not only that, but from what I know is that N is the 3rd and youngest son of the Sandaime Raikage. Hiruzen said. Everyone couldn't hide their surprise. To find out the Sandaime Raikage had a 3rd son they were just now finding out about, it was quite a surprise. A man covered in bandages and his arm in a sling spoke up. Hiruzen, I suggest that when the boy comes for the exams we send in a team to eliminate or capture him. He no doubt knows things that would be beneficial for Konoha. The 3rd glared at the man. No Danzo, we will do no such thing. The Chunin exams is to support and maintain peace. If we were to kill the boy, then the Raikage will probably suspect something and would no doubt declare war with us. A war we could not win, as few would side with us if they thought we weren't below the idea of killing a child during the Chunin exams. The Nine Tails attack and the death of Minato has wounded us severely. We would be walking into our own graves, Sarutobi said bluntly, where Danzo scowled. The exams will begin in a week's time. I will be meeting with the Jonin senseis to see what genin of ours will be participating. If I am correct, most of your children will be participating, Sarutobi said to the clan heads, where they nodded their heads. I have belief that they will do well in the exam. The will of fire burns strong in them. I have a feeling this exam will be quite interesting. With that said and done, the Hokage left the room with the others getting up from their chairs and left the room too. A couple of days later, Konoha gates. Team 9 and 8 were making their way to Konoha. Any second now they would see the main gates. The gate was large, but instead of it being made of iron and stone, it seemed to be made of wood. N was curious to see Konoha. Who wouldn't? If his brother hadn't taken him to Kumo, then he would no doubt be a Konoha ninja and live in Konoha. He wondered if he wasn't taken to Kumo, would he have still been in the exams? They got into Konoha with no trouble, though the 2 guards had a double take when they found out N was the son of the Sandaime Raikage. They went to the inn where they would be staying, the Flaming Leaf. It was a suitable place, wasn't too fancy nor too plain. Alright you guys, you may explore the village, make sure you have your P-ports and try to not get into trouble, N, Darui said to the genin. N groaned. Why do you always think I'm the one who gets into fights? He complained. Ko looked at him with a deadpan. Because it is always you. N just scowled before walking away with a huff. Yugito and Ko laughed at their teammates' misfortune before heading after him, while Team B went with B to look around the village. With N was looking around with interest at the buildings and the people of Konoha. He wondered what it would have been like to live here. He shook his head. No, Kumo was his home, and he loved it. He would never want to live anywhere else, it would always be home. He edged his head to the side slightly when he heard angry voices in the distance. Deciding to see what was going on, he decided to see what the commotion was. He jumped on a building and started to go towards the noise. Looking down after running, N saw with interest a group of 5 people. 2 were Suna shinobi, and 2 were Konoha, whilst 1 was what he met a civilian. The Suna shinobi, a male in some sort of black suit with what appeared to be cat ears on his head and purple paint on his face, had a scowl on his face as he held up a boy around the age of 8 or 9 by the front of his shirt. Hey, watch where you're going, you little punk, he said to the terrified boy. A sandy blonde girl with a large battle fan who also had a Suna Hi-8 looked annoyed. Come on, Konkuro, just let him go, we have to meet up with sensei, she said in annoyance. The now known Kankuro glanced back at the blonde with a smirk. Come on, Tamari. We have plenty of time. He looked back to the small boy. Besides, I hate cheeky brats with no respect. I think he needs to learn a lesson, he said, whereas the boy gulped. The two Konoha shinobi, one male and another female, were in front of them watching the scene. The girl, who was fair-skinned and had long pink hair and was wearing a red dress, was putting her hands in a pleading manner. Please put him down, he's just a little boy, she said timidly. The boy next to her, a very pale boy with ink-black hair and a fake smile on his face, just stood there. Kankuro smirked. No. He then moved his fist back to hit the boy, who flinched while the pink-haired girl gasped but didn't try to stop him. And seeing enough, disappeared from the top of the building in a red lightning shushing. He then appeared behind Kankuro and grabbed his fist before the shinobi could hit the boy. Everyone was shocked to see someone appear from nowhere with such speed. En moved his head so he was near Kankuro's ear. I wouldn't do that if I were you, yo. If you hit that kid, I'll make it look like you were punched by my bro. En twisted his hand hard, making the boy flinch, and on instinct dropped the boy. En sensed rather than saw Kankuro's free fist racing towards his head. He leaned his head to the side, the fist swinging harmlessly inches from his head. Using his momentum, he moved his foot across Kankuro's feet, making the boy fall when he was swept off of his feet. While Kankuro was still falling, En, still holding the other fist, swung the boy's arm and threw the Suna shinobi into the fence. Nobody moved. Everyone was looking in surprise and slight awe at how En had easily defeated Kankuro in a few seconds. Tamari was tense, expecting the boy to attack her as well. En, for the matter, ignored the others and watched calmly as Kankuro struggled to get up. He did manage, though he was still a little dizzy when his head had hit the fence. Kankuro glared at the boy who embered him. He was surprised to see not a Konoha Hi-8 but a Kumogakure Hi-8. Hey Kumo, mind your own business, he yelled angrily at the boy. En mentally smirked in deciding to take a tip from Itachi-sensei. He gazed at the boy with a bored expression, as though he wasn't worth the effort to bring any emotions to his face. I'm surprised, seeing as how Suna and Konoha are allies. I'm surprised you would attack a little kid. He glanced at the two Konoha ninja with a small glare, making the girl flinch and take a step back in fear, or that these two wouldn't defend a member of their village. Isn't teamwork and friendship your village's specialty? The girl had the decency to look ashamed. The male just kept looking at him with that creepy smile. The boy he had saved, however, was looking at him with unconcealed awe. En then grinned. Also, I have to wonder why you got into your teammate's makeup kit, he said, getting a laugh from the girl, and Kankuro turned red in both emberment and anger. It's war paint, he yelled. En rolled his eyes. Sure, he said. He then turned towards a certain tree. You two can come out now, I know you're there. And to the others' surprise, two boys appeared. One was a pale-skinned redhead with a tattoo with the kanji for love on his forehead. The other, En noticed with interest, was Sasuke Uchiha, his ignored target and his sensei's brother. Sasuke was shocked. Not only had this boy easily beaten the Suna ninja, he also knew he was hiding, along with the fact there was another boy in the same tree as him. Not even he knew that, and he was in the same tree. He jumped down and landed beside his teammates, glaring at the boy. The two shinobi froze in fear when they saw the redhead. Gaara, Kankuro stuttered out. Kankuro, you're an emberment to our village, a deep voice sounded from Gaara as he looked at the boy. He then turned his head towards En. I apologize for my sister and brother's actions. Who are you? En looked up at the boy with a grin. You know, I don't know if it's not the same in Kumo, but there we tell others our names first, yo. He rapped. Gaara remained impassive, though he seemed to be pondering En's question. My name is Sabuku no Gaara. En Yatsuki. Everyone save Gaara eyes widened in surprise. They knew of the Yatsuki clan. They were considered the greatest raiden users, and they could back the claim, the head being the Sandaime Raikage. But everyone knew that there were only 3 members of the clan, and this boy certainly didn't look like either person. You're lying. There are only 3 people in that clan. The pink-haired girl screeched, making everyone wince from the sound. Sasuke spoke. Sakura, shut up, you're annoying. Making the girl brood about what her crush had said. Gaara nodded his head. He obviously believed En was telling the truth. I will look forward to fighting you, En Yatsuki. His voice became deeper and more raspy. Mother wants your blood, and she will have it. The boy then disappeared in a shushing, quickly followed by his siblings. N was about to leave when he sensed two familiar chakra signatures above him. No doubt they had watched the whole things. He sighed. You guys can come out, he yelled. Yugito and Ko appeared in front of them. Neither looked very happy. N-kun, we leave you alone for 5 minutes and you've already picked a fight, Yugito stated with a twitching eye while Ko just looked impish, though you could tell that he was annoyed too. N shrunk at the girl's gaze. Hey, well, you see, Yugito-chan, he said before he was interrupted by Sakura. Wait. They all turned to look at her. She hesitated when she saw them all looking at her. You're ninja of Kumogakure, you're not an ally and are not allowed to be here. We need to take you to jail for trespassing, she stated firmly, though she was scared to fight N, seeing how he easily defeated Kankuro before. Inner Sakura shouted in her head. Cha. Sasuke-kun will defeat them with ease and then will profess his love for us, cha. Team Darui looked at the girl in disbelief before they all started cracking up, confusing the girl. Hey, didn't you hear me? You're under arrest for trespassing, she yelled. N slowly stopped laughing. You guys don't know. He noticed their confused looks. He and the others took out their papers that allowed them entrance into Konoha. We're allowed to be here, Pinky. You're not an ally of Konoha. You're not allowed to be here, Sasuke said coolly. We are for the Chunin exams, Yugito said. The Chunin exams? Sakura questioned. You guys don't even know that Konoha is hosting the Chunin exams? Ko asked them. Sakura looked like she was going to snap something to the clan heir before she noticed N studying her and her teammates. What are you looking at? She questioned. I know you guys, N said. Sasuke smirked. Of course you have. Who hasn't heard of me, Uchiha Sas? You're the team that abandoned old man Tazuna just because of running into some low CL ninja. N stated, glaring at the trio angrily and unknowingly sending out small amounts of Ki that made Sakura sweat and take a few steps back in fear. Yugito and Ko had also noticed this. They remembered back in Wave when they had been guarding Tazuna. He said the Konoha team that left him was a pink-haired girl who screamed like a banshee, a pale weird boy with a creepy smile, and an emo prince with duck butt hair. This was obviously that team. They immediately started to glare at them. Tazuna? Sakura asked him, not knowing whom he was talking about. She suddenly back up in fear when N suddenly appeared in front of her, his blue eyes burning with anger, and she noticed with a start that his pupil was slowly turning into a slit. Yeah, Tazuna, remember him? The guy who had put all of his hope into you guys to save his country, and what happened? You abandoned him just because of some CCL ninja. N rounded on them angrily. Sakura's eyes widened when she realized who Tazuna was. Why, yeah, so. He lied to us about the mission rank. We were ill prepared for such a dangerous mission, she said back snootily, though she shrank under Team Darui's glares. His whole country was under the iron boot of the master criminal Gato. The people of Wave were nothing more than slaves to him. He took their land, people, food, hopes, and money from those people. Of course he had to lie. He needed help. Yugito said angrily, as she hated people who would turn their backs on people in need if things started to get a little hard. Whatever, like that old drunk deserved the help of an Uchiha, Sasuke sneered. N appeared in front of him, nearly nose to nose, his hand on one of his swords. You wanna say that again, you little emo? N asked dangerously. No one can call old man Tazuna an old drunk except me. Making Yugito and Ko sweat drop at N's words. The pale boy spoke up for the first time. I think you should stop yelling at us less, the boy said conversationally with a fake smile in places ever. N's eyebrow twitched. He turned away from the Uchiha. What did you call me? N growled out. Sigh. Sakura screeched at the pale boy who just insulted an already pissed off Kumo shinobi. I called you less, the boy said with a fake smile. N looked like he wanted to punch the boy, but Yugito put her hand on his shoulder, instantly calming him down. Wait, how do you guys even know about that mission? Sakura asked after she thought N had calmed down enough so he wouldn't explode on them. Who do you think accepted the mission from you guys? Ko asked them. Sakura looked at them in shock. Why, you guys went on that mission? But it had to have been at least a B rank. High A rank actually, Yugito said. Yeah, we accepted the mission and we meet old man Tazuna hiding in these woods. He took us to Nami where we ran into Zabuza Momochi, N said, where Sakura gasped. But he's an A- rank missing ninja. There is no way you guys are telling the truth, you're just trying to make yourselves look better than Sasuke-kun. Sakura screeched accusingly. Fangirl. The three Kumo ninja thought dryly. Well, Darui-sensei fought him while we fought his clones, though I did help sensei round the end with one of my jutsu, En said cheerfully. We then went to Tazuna's when a hunter non killed Zabuza, though we later found out he was alive and the hunter non was an accomplice. After some while I managed to convince Zabuza and the hunter non to betray Gato. When the midget showed his face, Zabuza killed him since Gato was going to kill him too. We saved Wave, they consider us heroes off the nation. En said. No way. This moron fought AA ranked ninja and lived. Why? Why do I not have that power? I deserve it. I needed to kill him. Sasuke fumed. Sakura was unsure on what to say. She then noticed the time and realized they had to meet Kakashi-sensei. We have to go meet sensei. With that said and done, Sakura ran towards their meeting spot and to go away from the angry Kumo ninja. Sasuke and Sai followed her, though they just decided to walk. En watched as Sai and Sasuke disappeared around a corner. His angry glare immediately turned bright with laughter as he started to laugh. Ha ha ha, oh man, did you see their faces? They were terrified, especially the fan girl. Ah ha ha, oh man, we need to do that more often. Yugito smiled. I have to admit that was pretty fun, though I doubt that girl would be any challenge, probably faint if you blew on her wrong. En turned towards his teammates still grinning. Alright guys, let's go back to. He stopped when he felt a tugging at his jacket. Turning around, he saw that it was the boy he had rescued. Now that the action was over, En took note of the boy. He was around the age of 8 or 9, he had dark spiky brown hair, he had a helmet on his head with a smiley face sticking out its tongue, and he had an oversized blue scarf wrapped around his neck. The boy was looking at En with stars in his eyes. Sugoi, you were so awesome, you were like. He started making punching and kicking actions while making explosion sounds with his mouth, and that makeup guy was like, he made a scared face while shaking in pretend fear. En grinned and held out his fist. Yo kid, glad I could help. Name's En as you know, so what's yours? Cause not knowing doesn't go with the flow, he rapped. The boy smiled and fist pumped En. My name is Sarutobi Konohamaru. Ko raised an eyebrow, the grandson of the third Hokage. Konohamaru nodded, though he looked a little sad. Yeah, Gigi is Hokage, and people always call me honorable grandson, they never see me as me, I hate it, he muttered. That ain't so bad, Konohamaru, En said, making Konohamaru look up in shock and slight happiness when En didn't call him honorable grandson. En smiled and crouched down so they were eye to eye. I'm the son of the third Raikage and I ain't afraid to be proud of it. It's part of who I am, but don't think yourself is better than others, En said. I know that, but I am tired of being called that, that's why I'm going to defeat my grandpa and become Hokage. There is no shortcut to becoming a Kage, En said. Konohamaru looked at him with wide eyes. To become a Kage is hard path. It's not something you can get by taking shortcuts, only through many years of hard work and willpower will you be worthy of attaining the title of Kage, En said wisely with Konohamaru hanging on to his every word. So you're saying that to be a Kage means that I have to work and train hard and only through willpower and guts, then I'll be worthy of being a Kage and people will see me as me? Konohamaru asked. En nodded. Yep. Then I'll do that. I'll show everyone who I am, Sarutobi Konohamaru. Not just the grandson of the Hokage. Konohamaru said with determination in his eyes. In the Hokage's office, the third Hokage was watching the scene between En and his grandson through his crystal ball. Beside him was Darui. You have an interesting student, Darui-san, Sarutobi said with a small chuckle as he watched with a smile, happy that En was teaching Konohamaru the true way to get strong to be worthy of being a Kage. Darui sighed. I know, though he always seems to be getting into trouble, like you just saw with those Suna ninja, there is never a dull moment when you're around him. Sarutobi laughed. Ah well, I'm glad young En saved my grandson from young Konkuro, I must say his speed is quite advanced for his age. Darui shrugged. It's not very surprising considering who he is. Sarutobi nodded his head. Ah well, I guess that is obvious. I will be looking forward to see what else your students are able to do, though I know my ninja will give them a run for their money, he said jovially. You'd be surprised, Lord Hokage, En has the ability to be quite unpredictable. along with him working with Yugito and Co., I'm confident they'll do just fine. Darui said confidently. Sarutobi smiled as he smoked on his pipe. Well, we will see at the exams, shall we? I wish your team good luck. Darui nodded before he left the room. Sarutobi chuckled before leaning back in his chair with a sigh. He looked at the large stack of paperwork with a sigh. He then reached into his drawing and added some chakra into a hidden seal. With a small poof of smoke, a familiar orange book appeared. With a little giggle, he started to read while a small trail of blood came out of his nose when he got to one of his favorite parts in the book. A laugh startled him back to the present. Quickly glancing over his shoulder and trying to hide the book at once, he saw with surprise to see his student Jiraiya leaning against his window sill. I knew you were a pervert, sensei, Jiraiya said with a grin. Sarutobi would have tried to deny it, but it was pretty hard when you had blood running out of your nose and his book in his eyes. It's been a while, Jiraiya. Jiraiya nodded. I know, 12, almost 13 years since we've last seen each other. Why are you here? Jiraiya looked hurt. What, I can't come and see my sensei in my home after being gone for over a decade? Sarutobi looked at his student. Jiraiya, when we last talked you wouldn't even consider coming back to Konoha with Minato-kun's death and the disappearance of Naruto-kun. Jiraiya nodded his head. I know that. So why are you here? I thought you would spend your time looking for Naruto-kun. Jiraiya smiled. I know that, but I'm done looking for him. Sarutobi's eyes narrowed dangerously. Are you saying that you've completely abandoned your godson and your student's child? He asked dangerously. Oh, I never said anything about that. What do you mean? But even as the third said that, the gears started moving in his head. He looked at his student in shock. You found him, didn't you? Jiraiya's smile just seemed to get bigger. I did. The third could only gap at his student in shock. Jiraiya had finally found his godson after searching for nearly 13 years. The son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki was coming back to his home. Where is he, Jiraiya? Where'd you find him? How is he? What's he like? Sarutobi questioned frantically. Jiraiya held up his hands to stop the torrent of questions. Whoa, calm down, sensei. I found him a few weeks ago. And you've probably already seen him. What do you mean? Jiraiya looked at his desk. Following his gaze, Sarutobi found himself looking in his crystal ball where he saw En Yatsuki and his teammates still talking with his grandson. What are you taking about Jira? Sarutobi stopped when he realized it. His eyes bugged out as he took a closer look at En. He looked at his face. His face, while more roundish than Minato's, reminded him of a little bit of Kushina. He looked at the boy's sun-kissed hair, the way it spiked just like Minato's had been when he was a child. And those eyes, the same eyes. Bright sky blue eyes that sparkled with kindness and warmth but still had the look of a warrior. They saw the eyes are the window to the soul. Sarutobi saw the same brightness burning inside En's eyes like Minato's, the eyes that burned with the will of fire. Impossible, Sarutobi whispered. That's what I thought when I first met him, Jiraiya said with a small chuckle. Sarutobi turned back to his student. How? How is this possible? He demanded, wanting to know how the son of the greatest ninjas of his village wound up in Kumo as the third son of the Raikage. He couldn't wrap his head around it. Kushina. And suddenly it all made sense. Sarutobi groaned as he smacked his head against his desk. Even in death, that woman still gives me headaches. He said sourly, thinking of the red head. He sighed. Explain. So for the next couple of hours Jiraiya explained everything, from how he had found En, to En's childhood to how he had found him. The entire time Sarutobi said nothing, he just listened. When Jiraiya was done he sighed. What are the chances of young En-kun joining Konoha? Jiraiya shrugged. The chance of Iwa giving us full control of their land and power. So never. Yep. Sarutobi closed his eyes in thought. The son of their greatest ninja and Kunoichi was a proud shinobi of Kumogakure. Gods, if the council or more specifically Danzo found out about this he wouldn't know what to do. I hope you're not thinking of kidnapping him, sensei. His dad and brothers would be pissed, Jiraiya warned the old man. I know that, Jiraiya, I'm just thinking of what our shinobi would think if they found out the son of their Yondaime Hokage is alive and is a ninja of Kumogakure and proclaims to be the son of their Raikage. Gods, if Danzo got word of this. Jiraiya knew exactly what the old war hawk would do. He'd start planting the seeds of fear and anger into the minds of their shinobi. Saying that Kumogakure stole the son of their beloved Hokage, turned him into their enemy, made him a loyal ninja of their nation, the people would be a riot demanding to go to war against Kumo for this horrible deed, and they wouldn't be able to stop it. That is exactly why we keep this to ourselves. Sarutobi nodded gravely before a small smile appeared again as he saw young En laughing with his teammates. He's so much like them, isn't he? Jiraiya smiled. Yeah. Opening square bracket closing square bracket 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 opening square bracket closing square bracket. It was the day the Chunin exams started. Teams 9 and 8 headed towards the academy where the first part of the Chunin exams will start. They had already said goodbye to their senseis, with B rapping about his students and how they were going to win, causing sweat drops from everyone save N. So this is the academy, N commented as they stood at the entrance of the building. Samui sighed slightly. Don't do anything brash, N. We're trying to go under the radar. It'll be more beneficial if our enemy does not know of us. En looked at the girl with a small pout, but Samui. I never do things under the radar. Then it's boring, and why wouldn't you want to get in a fight? It brings people together, he says, causing everyone to look at the boy. Omoi looked nervous. Oh man, what if En picks a fight with a girl and wins and we find out she is the daughter of a Kage or daimyo and we'll have to go to war with that country? Only the girl will fall in love with me. And despite my best efforts I will too, and then I'll have to choose between my friends and family or the one I love, but by then people will find out and, he never got to finish as Karui punched him in the head. Shut up Omoi Baka, that's not going to happen. Yugito sighed. Come on, let's go, and with that she led the two Kumo teams inside the building. The hallway was completely filled with Chunin hopefuls, many Konoha genin. They were watching as a boy in green spandex was tossed to the floor. A girl they Umed was his teammate rushed to help him up, before begging the larger boys in front of them to let them in. The two boys then started telling everyone in the hall that many people who have taken the exams have quit being shinobi because of the hard exam or became disabled for life, effectively scaring some of the genin, save of course the Kumo shinobi. You sense it too, right? En murmured in Yugito's ear where she nodded. Yeah, those guys are using a henge. A very good one seeing as no one has noticed it yet, judging by their chakra signatures they're high chunin or low jonin, no doubt they're proctors. En shook his head, they're all bakas. We're only on the second floor, that room isn't 301 it's upstairs, that's a henge to weed out the weak, PFT if they can't figure that out then they don't deserve to be chunin. The two teams headed up the stairs before they heard a voice behind them, Oi, you're not fooling anyone, drop the genjutsu. They paused halfway up a step. Who wants to bet? En started as they looked behind them to see it was Sasuke with a smirk ever in place. Oi Uchiha, En hollered making everyone look at him and his team. If you want to show your so-called Uchiha superiority then you should have realized what the genjutsu was for. What it was used for. What do you mean you idiot? Sasuke retorted. Yugito answered for the emo hole, that was supposed to weed out the weak who had no chance of becoming chunin, which would give those who knew the genjutsu more breathing space so that we wouldn't have to go through the idiots during a fight, but thanks to your big mouth now there will be more people making it harder for the people who actually have a chance to be chunin. Sasuke gritted his teeth as everyone laughed at him. The Kumo shinobi and Kunoichi turned around and head back up the stairs, his pride wouldn't take it. He rushed towards the blonde girl with his fist ed back. The girl spun around along with her comrades when they heard his footsteps, and rushed forward his fist ed back as well. Before either of their punches could hit each other both were stopped to the surprise of the two. The one who was holding them back was the green spandex boy who had been pushed around from before, obviously that wasn't the case now. You are Uchiha Sasuke, correct? The boy asked. En took one look at the boy with the bull hair, round eyes, and thick eyebrows. Holy shit, are those things alive? En asked as he saw the eyebrows move. The boy introduced himself as Rock Lee. He then challenged Sasuke to fight for the heart of Sakura, where the girl screamed about how ugly he was. Sasuke smugly accepted, thinking that there was no way this other idiot could beat an Uchiha. En and the others followed the two Konoha teams where there was a small arena. They then watched with great amusement as the Uchiha got his kicked by the boy. En made note of how fast the boy was along with how strong. He grinned broadly. I think I found my rival in these exams, he said happily to Yugito. The fight ended with Lee being the victor and probably would have knocked the Uchiha out had the beatdown not been interrupted by a turtle. From the turtle, a larger clone of Lee appeared and kept going on how he was dampening his flames of youth, which made Lee cry out with tears in his eyes that he would make his flames of youth even brighter. The two then hugged and the Kumo genin along with others saw the worst thing ever. A sunset appeared behind Lee and his sensei as they hugged each other, both crying about the flames of youth. Ah, my eyes are burning. This ain't no fun, my stomach's a churning. En yelled as he tried to dispel the genjutsu. Look away, Kit, look away. Kyuubi roared as he tried to dispel the genjutsu but found himself unable, too much to the great fox's surprise and horror. Finally the genjutsu ended and En ran away as fast as he could, quickly followed by the others. They soon found the door that led to the first exam and entered. Immediately they were greeted with the key of the other genin taking the exams. The key would have made weak genin wet their pants, but Team 9 and 8 were the best genin team of Kumogakure. They weren't easily scared. En grinned at Yugito. Seems like these punks need to learn a lesson, nay Yugito-chan. He asked his blonde teammate, who instantly matched his grin. The two Jinchuriki let loose their ki mixed with a small amount of their buse. It wasn't that large, but it still scared every genin in the room. They all knew one thing: stay away from the Kumo ninja. The two teams found themselves a corner to themselves. So we're finally here, Ko commented. Karui nodded. Yeah, let's kick their ass, she said happily. Cool it, Karui. It won't do good if you rushed in and made the mission a failure, Samui said. I'm guessing that whatever is for the first exam won't be anything to do with fighting. If so, they would have done it outside, perhaps an exam, Ko said. En shrugged. I guess we'll find out. He then looked over the room and saw the Uchiha's team come in. He noticed with a small laugh that Sasuke still looked pretty beat up. A purple blur ran across the room and suddenly a blonde-haired girl was on top of Sasuke's back as she squealed, Sasuke-kun, you're late. Oh no, another fangirl, Yugito muttered as she glared at the annoying blonde. Sakura then started to yell at the blonde girl, who they found out was Ino. It was obvious they weren't friends as Sakura kept calling her Ino pig and Ino called her Sakura billboard brow, which ticked both girls off. Dear Kami, are all of Konoha Kunoichi's fangirls? Ko muttered under his breath as he saw the two squabble over who, there, Sasuke-kun loved more. Two other boys approached them. One was on the larger side and eating a bag of chips while the other had a lazy look around him. The lazy one was asking Ino to be quiet because she was being too troublesome. Yahoo! It looks like all the rookies are here, a young boy yelled as he approached the others with his team. He appeared to be an Inuzuka, seeing as he had a dog on his head. En also noticed that the only girl was the heiress to the Hyuga clan while the other appeared to be an Aburame, though it was hard to tell because he was wearing a coat that hid most of his features. En and the others watched with dumbstruck looks, except for Samui, as the teams all started to yell loudly how they would be promoted to Chunin. It seems that the attention is being taken away from me, En commented as he placed a hand on his chin in a thinking pose. You think I should be louder? He asked where everyone looked at him with a deadpan. En pouted slightly but returned his attention to the rookies who had been joined by one more. You should be a little quieter, the new guy said. You're only rookies, straight out of the academy. You're bringing unwanted attention to yourselves, as you can see. The rookies looked around and saw all the other genin, many of them older than them, all glaring at them. Sakura asked him if this was his second time in the exams. Kabuto said that this was his 7th time. Kiba exclaimed he must suck. En narrowed his eyes. This guy has high Jonin chakra reserves, not to mention how he seems to show experience though he hides it well. Something isn't right, he thought as he continued to listen in on the conversation. Kabuto then revealed his info cards, information on almost every ninja that had taken the exams before along with previous exams. He then showed it by showing the rookies a card that showed how many teams from different countries were participating. It seems that there are 30 teams from Sand, 21 from Rain, 15 from GR, 72 from Konoha, and finally 2 from Kumo. Sasuke stepped forward. Then you have information on the skills of most of the genin here. Kabuto smirked. Of course, anyone in particular. Yatsuki N and his teammate Yugito, and Sabuko no Gaara. You already know their names, that's no fun. Kabuto found a card that showed Gaara. He is the son of the Raikage and is the teammate of his elder siblings Kankuro and Tamari. He's completed 12 C ranks and, while even 1B rank, it's also said he completed all the missions without getting a scratch. The rookies were quiet when they learned of such a dangerous foe. Kabut shuffled his cards until he found the right one. Next is Ni Yugito. She is the grand niece of the second Raikage, a dangerous opponent, and teammate to En Yatsuki and Ko Abuyoki, and their sensei is Darui of the Black Lightning. She is a capable kunoichi. She is best specialized in ninjutsu and is a perfect partner for her teammate En, as she can do either long-range or close-range taijutsu with flawless teamwork with En. She acts like the tag team partner to En, a tradition Kumo has for a candidate for becoming Raikage, though they of course are not candidates but are considered tag team partners anyway. She is extremely skilled in fire techniques along with high chunin level kenjutsu. She is not to be underestimated as she has extremely high chakra reserves and has the skill to back her up. Kabuto shuffled his cards again. Next up En Yatsuki, interesting. It says here that he is the youngest son of the third Raikage and the youngest brother of A, who is the fastest man alive, and B. Together those two are the AB combo as A has a chance of becoming the fourth Raikage. En's teammates are Ni Yugito and Abuyoki Ko and their sensei is Darui of the Black Lightning, a student of the third Raikage and was entrusted with the secrets of the Black Lightning. It says that they have completed a total of 21 D ranks, 12 C ranks, and WoW 1 A rank. That's impossible, a genin team can't do A rank missions. Ino retorted. Kabuto shook his head. Well, it says here that Team 9 was given a mission that had been given to them from Konoha to protect a bridge builder from the master criminal Gato. The team fought against one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist, Zabuza Momochi, known as the Demon of the Mist, and his apprentice. It appears that it was En himself who convinced Zabuza and his student to switch sides and join Kumo. En along with his sensei and Zabuza then killed over 100 guards along with Gato himself. He used no jutsu. Everyone's eyes widened as they realized how skilled the Kumo ninja must be to help kill 100 men. Shortly afterwards, En and his team completed their mission. When the bridge was fully built, they were hailed as the nation's heroes, especially En, as it was he who gave the country hope again. Everyone looked rather impressed save one brooding emo. Sasuke gritted his teeth. That idiot. I should be the one who has the power to kill 100 men with no jutsu. To be hailed a savior and superior. I need to find out where his power comes from. I need it to kill him. Kabuto continued on. Since he has not been in the Chunin exams before, I do not have much detail on him, though I do have his basic stats. Wow, Kabuto said as he looked at the card. Are you going to tell us? Kiba asked angrily. Sorry. Well, it says here that En's main strength is his speed and strength. As the son of the third Raikage and the brother of A Yatsuki, whom are considered the fastest and strongest men alive, he is incredibly fast. Much faster than most low jonin, in fact. He is without a doubt the fastest ninja here. As for strength, he is no doubt stronger in physical strength than most, and if you combine his speed with his strength, he is indeed a formidable opponent, Kabuto said with a small bit of respect for the boy. It seems that Kumo is bringing their best teams to compete. How troublesome, Shikamaru said. What of his stats in ninjutsu, genjutsu, kenjutsu? What are they? Sasuke demanded. Kabuto smirked before pushing his glees up his nose as he looked at the card. Let's see. He has already been tested for what type of elemental chakra he possesses. Odd, only Chunin who wish to be Jonin do this. It appears that like his father and brothers, En's elemental chakra is lighting. But unlike his brothers and father, he is a little special. Shoji stopped eating his chips. The word, special, in the shinobi world meant something important. What do you mean by special? He asked. En has a bloodline limit, one that has never been seen before. His lightning chakra is the color red and is apparently much stronger and faster than normal lightning chakra. He may be able to usurp his family someday. Though I don't know what type of jutsu he can use, it says that he has a wide collection of lightning-based jutsu, from E rank level just U to even A rank jutsu, says that he even knows an S rank jutsu though he has yet to master it fully. For genjutsu, he is a complete failure in that field. Sasuke smirked, since despite having a bloodline he was a failure in genjutsu, something the Uchiha specialized in. His smirk was wiped off his face when Kabuto continued, however, that is only because N has cage-level chakra reserves, and despite having surprisingly good control of his chakra he cannot do complex genjutsu but has shown great skill in dispelling them. Cage-level chakra. What kind of monster is he? Sakura whimpered. Man, ability to help kill 100 men with no just you, faster and stronger than most Jonin, cage-level chakra, a bloodline limit that gives his already advanced lightning, 1 in S rank, an edge. There's no way this kid is ordinary, even if he is the son of a cage. Man, this is so troublesome, Shikamaru thought. Now as for Kenjutsu, while once again, it says that N along with his brother Kree. A cough was heard behind the rookies, who spun around and saw with alarm that N himself along with Yugito were leaning against the wall looking at the rookies with grins. Seems these guys are pretty interested in us, Yugito-chan. N said cheerfully. Seems that way, N-kun, Yugito said with equal cheerfulness. N turned his attention to Kabuto. He took off his red shades to give the guy a guarded look. I'm surprised you have info on us, seeing as we've never been to the Chunin exams before. Kabuto smirked, though a small bead of sweat found itself on his forehead. Hey, well, best be prepared, I best be going. He turned to leave, but N appeared right in front of him. N wagged a finger. I'll take these. He quickly grabbed Yugito and his info cards and held them as red lightning began to form around his fingers. The cards began to crumple to dust. Thank you. N gave a mock bow before started to head back to his comrades. He stopped when he heard Sasuke retort, scared that if we know your skills you'll lose against us, like the weakling you are. You along with your teammates are nothing but pests compared to me. Sasuke suddenly found himself pinned to the wall with a sword at his throat. Everyone jerked away from them in shock of N's speed. Let me make this clear, Uchiha, N said calmly. I don't care if you insult me, if you call me weak, a loser, but, a small trickle of blood formed where N's sword was, but never insult my friends, or it'll just be the last thing you do. He removed his sword from his throat and began to walk away again. Geez, Shikamaru muttered. Good job pissing him off, Sasuke, who only huffed while Sakura frantically dabbed at Sasuke's cut with a cloth, hoping to help him with his horrible wound. We should stay away from those guys. Sasuke pushed Sakura off him. No matter how good he is nothing compared to an Uchiha. Kiba laughed. Says the guy who just got his kicked. Before he could reply, a poof of smoke appeared in the room. A group of men and women appeared dressed in gray, while the man in front of them was dressed in black. Everyone shut up. The man in black barked out. The first part of the Chunin exams have begun. A smirk appeared on the mont's scarred face. My name is Ibiki Morino and I will be the lead proctor of your first exam. Everyone took their seats and the first test was revealed. It was a written test. Aw man, I hated these in the academy, why do I have to do them now? N thought with annoyance. A snort was heard in the back of our favorite blonde's head. You always ped those tests, though to be fair it was probably because of me. You're not exactly the critical thinker. N scowled at the fox's words. Shut up. Ibiki then said that if anyone was caught cheating would have points taken off. The 10th and last question would be told separately from the other questions. The proctors gave out the tests. N took a glance at the questions and saw with alarm that these were Jonin level questions. This isn't right. No Genin can answer these questions. We have to cheat. Wow, congrats kid, you managed to figure that out without my help, Kyuubi said with a laugh. N's eye twitched. Shut up 9-0. You keep insulting me and I'll kick your just as a demo. Stop that stupid rap. You and B aren't even good. Oi, I'll have you know that our rhymes are amazing. Anyway, we're getting off topic. Can we open up the connection? N asked the great fox. Kyuubi responded by sending out both his and N's chakra and consciousnesses. Immediately 2 other voices joined the two. N-kun. A voice purred out. We were just talking about you. Nibby. We were not. Yugito's voice rang in N's head. N sent out a mental image of himself grinning. Hey you guys, man, it's been a while since we used this, huh? What they were using was an jutsu of sorts that a Byu or Jinchuriki can use. If there is another Byu or Jinchuriki around them, they can send out their consciousness and the minds would connect. Instant telepathy. The Jinchuriki often used this when they trained in the cave so they could talk to each other if they weren't in the same room. It was pretty handy for missions too. So have you guys figured out any of the answers? Yugito asked them. Only question 7. Name the algorithm of the void encampment seal. Pretty easy for me, En said. That's because you're actually good at sealing, En-kun, Yugito said. I know, I'm just that amazing. Kit's apparent genius in sealing aside, you may want to finish the test now, though how you'll get it to your teammate I don't know. With the help of their En and Yugito easily wrote down the answers. All around them other teams were caught cheating and left the room. En nodded slightly to Yugito. He casually leaned backwards on his chair as he pretended to examine his paper. He moved his hand to scratch his back but instead slowly moved one of his swords out of his sheath slightly. The paper reflected in the sword and bounced off of Yugito's sword, who moved it so the light hit Ko's eyes. He realized what they were doing and moved his sword out of the sheath slightly and was able to copy the answers down. Team B seemed to be doing fine. Samui was a genius and probably knew all the answers and managed to relay them to her team. The hour passed by as Genin team after Genin team were forced to leave the room as they were caught cheating. Finally it was time for the last question. Ibiki stepped forward. Alright you brats, it's time for the last question, but this rule has a few extra rules. Rule number 1. You have to choose to either answer the question or don't. Tamari stood up from her desk. That's stupid, why would we not answer the question? She demanded. Ibiki smirked darkly. Because if you get the question wrong, you will never be able to take the exams again. You will be Genin forever. Kiba stood up and pounded his hands on the table. That's crazy. You can't do that, he yelled as other Genin yelled their agreement. Quiet. Next rule, if even one of your teammates gets the answer wrong, your entire team will remain Genin. Ibiki glared at all the Genin. You have two choices. Take the question and either continue on or remain eternal Genin, or you can leave and come back to the next exam. The Genin froze, and then one person slowly got up and said he couldn't do it and he left the room followed by his teammates. The floodgates opened. More teams left at the prospect of being Genin forever. Ibiki noticed with a smirk at the Genin's broken resolve. His eyes hardened when he saw the blonde boy from Kumo leaning back in his chair writing in some sort of small notebook and muttering under his breath. From what he could hear, he was writing rhymes or something of the sort. Oi, blonde kid, Ibiki roared at the blonde, who merely looked up. Aren't you afraid? Terrified. Scared that if you mess this up you will be stuck as a Genin forever? En shrugged. Nope, not really, he said idly as he continued to write in his book. Why not? You won't be able to join your comrades as a Chunin or Jonin, you won't be able to take missions above C rank. En shrugged again. I don't care about the risks. What kind of shinobi would I be if I shied away from every challenge that was brought to me? My dad taught me to take my problems head on, not to be afraid of them. A Genin forever. Being a Genin doesn't mean I'll get weaker, it's just a rank. Nothing more, nothing less. And if I really cared about that, I could always get the promotion other ways. A true shinobi can't give up when it gets tough. How can we do missions if we are scared of hardship? So, give me your all. I'll take you down myself. En declared as glared at the man with his arms crossed. Ibiki noticed all the remaining Genin had been inspired by En's speech. Very well. He leaned forward menacingly. UP. He said. Tamari stood up. What do you mean we pee? What about the 10th question? She yelled over the noise of the talking Genin. There was no 10th question, or if you wanted to say that was the 10th question, he gestured towards En. Blondie here got it. You are shinobi. If you are given a mission you do not like or there is a chance you will die, do you refuse? No. A shinobi is a life of sacrifice. You are tools used by your cage to make your nation strong and your people safe. Then what about the other 9 questions? A Genin yelled as Ibiki nodded his head at the question. Those were to test your information gathering skills. In our line of work, information is power. You'll sometimes be asked to locate secret materials or spy on a target and make plans based on that info. If your intel is faulty or lacking, then your plans may be unraveled. If you're caught, then the enemy can make counter plans or feed you false information. A good shinobi can find the required information and do it without getting caught. Congratulations, you have passed the first exam. Ibika announced and all the Genin cheered. All of a sudden a crash came from the window and suddenly a banner appeared obstructing Ibiki. The banner read, the Y and single proctor of the second exam, Mitarashi Anko. A woman with dark purple hair and wearing fishnet clothing with a trench coat appeared. Many of the boy genin gaped at the lack of clothing while the girls glared at her, either for her revealing attire or the fact they didn't have that body. N laughed and quickly scribbled something in his rhyme book. He held it up to show the number 9. The woman pouted, "Ah, only a 9. You should have done some explosions." N grinned, "If you don't do that then your whole act will just implosion." "Anko, you're early." Ibiki grumbled as he ripped the banner off the wall. The now known Anko pouted, "Ah, I'm sorry Ibiki, I didn't mean to mess up your little gig," she said with a sweet smile as fake as a $7 bill. Anko then took notice of the number of teams. She remarked on how he must be losing his touch. "Don't worry though," she said with a bloodthirsty grin, "I'll make sure only half of them get through my exam," she announced with that grin scaring many of the genin. "All right brats. Follow me to the next exam." Anko promptly jumped out of the window. Everyone stared in shock of the crazy lady before N jumped up. "All right. Time to kick some." He then promptly jumped out of one of the unbroken windows causing the GL to scatter everywhere. Ko sighed and glanced at Yugito. "Shall we?" Yugito nodded. The two jumped out of the window in pursuit of their eccentric teammate, Team B not far behind them. All the other genin hurried after them.